They've got problems too. I mean, but that's one of their
I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our statement of values. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather, we humbly seek blessings upon this meeting. May we act with strength, courage, and will to perform our obligations and duties to our people with justice to all. Let us seek wisdom so that we may act in the best interests of our people, our neighbors, and our country. All this we ask so we may serve our community with fairness and respect, putting their needs before all.
Thank you. Please be seated. City Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Caserta. Here. Davis. Here. Kolstad.
Here.
Mahan. O'Neill. Watanabe. Here. And Mayor Gilmore.
Here. Is there a motion to excuse Councilmember Mahan?
Second.
Motion second. Lights on the motion. And that passes unanimously. Continuances and exceptions. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This one item that the Planning Commission reviewed at its April 25th meeting, it wasn't noticed properly, so staff is requesting the extension to June 6th.
Is there a motion to continue this item to June 6th?
So moved.
Motion second. Is there any member of the council making comments or member of the audience? All right. And that passes unanimously. That'll be continued to June 6th. Okay, we have a few items under special order of business. The first item is the recognition of Foster Care Resource Parent Awareness Month and presentation of a proclamation. Do we have Quinn Vu or Cheryl Netfler here? If you'd like to come forward, please come forward and tell us about foster care and parent resources. Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. My name is Queen Vu. I'm a social worker with the Department of Family and Children Services. Thank you, Mayor, and this council member for proclaiming May as a Foster Care Awareness Month. And you know, in the county, we have more than 1,000 children that are not living with their birth parent, and more than half of them need a safe place for them to live. And you know, the need for the foster parent is really high. So we would like you, if you are interested, just let us know that we can help you, to become the resourceful family. Now we call resourceful family because we believe that the children deserve to have the safety, loving care, and consistent place to live where they can thrive and mature. And by becoming the resourceful family, you can make a significant positive change in the life of a child, and the children and the youth need you. So please call us at the number 408-299-KISS so that we can get you more information. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yes.
And I'm Cheryl Kneffler. I am a foster parent here in Santa Clara. I have two kids who are placed with me. It's actually the second set of kids I've had placed with me, and I have the privilege of still being in touch and acting as an aunt to the first set of kids that I had placed with me. And we are on a path to adoption this June.
Are they with you this evening?
They are.
Could we please invite them up, and maybe you can introduce them, or they can introduce themselves? We'd love to meet them.
Okay, so with me are Desiree and Brandon, and they will be joining my family in, as I said, in June.
Congratulations. It's nice to meet both of you, and it's such a huge need for foster parents in this area. Quinn, can you give us that phone number again if anyone's interested?
408-299-KIDS, KIDS.
408-299-KIDS, kids. Great. Well, it's our pleasure to declare Foster Care Resource Parent Awareness Month for May, and we'd love to present this proclamation to you. So if you all could come here, and the council will join you so we can have a photo opportunity with you. Thank you. Okay, council. All right. Next item we have on the agenda is recognition of Lupus Awareness Month and presentation of a proclamation to Lupus Foundation of Northern California. So do we have, is Erin here? Or Christine Von Racefield, volunteer? Please come forward. Welcome.
Welcome. Well, not welcome to you.
Welcome to you.
Thank you. So thank you, Mayor Gilmore and council. My name is Christine Von Racefield, and I have been a resident of Santa Clara my entire life. I attended St. Clair School and Santa Clara High School, and my family has been involved with the city of Santa Clara for as long as I can remember. As well as my family being involved with the city as long as I can remember, I've also been sick as long as I can remember. I was officially diagnosed with lupus in 2002, but they've thought that I've had it since before 1989. But I'm not here for me. I'm here for the Lupus Foundation of Northern California. And for nearly 4 years, the Lupus Foundation of Northern California has been the only organization in Northern California focused on lupus awareness, providing education, services, and programs for those living with lupus and their loved ones. We focus on providing critical services to patients living with lupus with a mission to build a bridge from life with lupus today to life without lupus tomorrow. When the Lupus Foundation was founded as the Bay Area Lupus Foundation in 1978, very little was known about the disease. Lupus patients were 14.4 times more likely to die than the general population. Today, lupus patients are about 3 times more likely to die than non-patients, and the 10-year survival rate is over 90%. But that doesn't mean our challenges have gone away. As lupus has gone from being a highly fatal disease to a chronic condition that is often debilitating, the need for services for those living with lupus has only increased. Because of both the disease and its often toxic treatments, which can range from long-term steroid treatments to kidney transplants and chemotherapy, it is now more vital than ever that patients, their loved ones, and their caregivers have the information and the tools to be advocates for themselves. The Lupus Foundation provides patient education classes to allow patients and their loved ones to be better informed about their disease, medical conferences to keep the communities up to date on the latest on treatments and research, and support groups and a one-on-one support program known as the Lupus Buddy Program, with national reach for peer-to-peer support. Recently, we have also launched Lupus 101 as an online education tool to reach patients wherever they live. Those videos can be found on the Lupus Foundation of Northern California's Facebook page. This year, on June 11th, the drumbeat for a Lupus Cure 5K will bring high-profile visibility to lupus. Once a year, we visit Congress with the Lupus Research Alliance to advocate for research funding. Our work has been recognized by city councils, the California State Legislature, and even the Congressional Lupus Caucus. Almost 2 million Americans suffer from lupus, more than AIDS, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, sickle cell anemia, and cystic fibrosis combined. 9 out of 10 patients are women, and people of color are affected disproportionately. The most important thing in the daily fight, patients tell us again and again, is the hope that they are not alone in their battle. Today, I want to thank the members of the City Council for adding your voices to the chorus of hope.
Thank you, and we're so proud to declare May as Lupus Awareness Month, and thank you for sharing your story with us. Either of you like to speak?
This is Marielle, and this is Erin. Erin's our executive director, and Marielle.
Welcome.
I just want to thank Santa Clara for this. I've actually moved to Santa Clara for this job with the Lupus Foundation, so I'm a recent resident. And I think Christine said it all. Really, we're just trying to be here to help patients as we look for a cure.
Thank you for all the awareness information as well. Would you like to say something? Before we present you with our proclamation, we're very, very fortunate to have a representative of Congressman Ro Khanna's office here this evening. Chris Moylan, if you'd like to come forward, and maybe we can present our proclamations together. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to poach too much on your event, but this is important work that they're doing. As you were correct that even members of Congress have heard about this, and so I have this lovely certificate for you, signed by the Congressman. I specifically want to focus on your educational mission.
Chris, can you speak in the?
Am I too far away?
So the audience that's not here can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I thought I was using my theater voice, but I'll do
Yes.
better. One thing I have seen in my new position is over and over and over, people like this come in to tell me about a disease that I didn't know anything about. It's just amazing how much biology I have learned in 5 months, even considering that I was a chemistry teacher. So I really want to thank you for the awareness you've done. I'm sure the fact that the prognosis for lupus patients has gotten so much better during your lifetimes is not a coincidence. I think the work you're doing is really making a difference. So, should I get
Thank you. If we all could come over here and present together. Let's go, council.
Present with former teachers.
Yeah.
I'll get the picture. I'm good. Come on. Oh, sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, they came here for a reason. They need to be here.
Sit us all there?
By the way, we have a beautiful picture here. You're welcome. Thanks for your work.
That's funny. Okay. Next item on our agenda, we have a presentation by Daniel Pack, and the president of Mission College, and Ann Kempner, vice president of the College Board of Trustees. They're going to give us an update on what's going on with our beloved Mission College in Santa Clara. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So in terms of advancing the presentation, is it this thing?
Speak into the microphone.
We will speak into the microphone.
Thank you. Everyone wants to hear you.
That's good. Thank you very much for your time this evening. We'll try and be brief, but we are here I am joined by Vice President of the West Valley Mission Community College District Board Trustees, and we're here to give a brief overview of what's happening at Mission College. There's a lot that's happening and some transformation, and we'll get right to it. So I always like to begin with our mission statement, which is that Mission College's first priorities are our students, their learning, and their success. That grounds everything we do, so I wanted to open with that this evening. Mission College has been part of the Santa Clara community since 1975. Mission College opened its doors, and you see the interim campus sign there at Jefferson Intermediate School in Santa Clara. And then in 1979, we moved to our permanent site, which at the time was surrounded by green fields. It's always fun to go to the library and see some of the photos of us in Great America and nothing else. But over the years, we've transformed and we continue to transform. So you see some photos on the left from our historical database, and you see some photos from the right that were taken this year. Different technology, different techniques, always trying to find new ways to do instruction. But we're very proud to be celebrating our 40th graduating class of students this year.
That's great, yay.
And actually this week, it'll be this Friday as our commencement. We always appreciate the support that we've had from the city of Santa Clara and from all of the residents in our area. We have been blessed with tremendous support. Just last week, we actually had a visit from Mayor Gilmore, which I appreciated, and we were filming a video to welcome new students and talk about our vibrant community. We appreciated that support, but more importantly, we've had tremendous support from our community and our voters supporting multiple bond initiatives, 2 recently that have allowed us to do tremendous transformation of our physical campus. And up here you see 3 of the newest buildings that also have been named for Santa Clara families. Our Gilmore's Gary G. Gilmore and Family Academic Center, James and Vinci Viso Sports and Kinesiology Complex, and our Von Reisfeld Fire Tower. As part of our overall master planning, you will see in the very front a transformation of the campus. So the main building used to be the entire campus. That was the heart of the campus. That's going away. It's served a wonderful purpose, but it's outdated, it doesn't work for Wi-Fi and the current technology that we need, and we're transforming. So the buildings I just mentioned have been a part of that transformation and that replacement, and most importantly, we're now working on the front entry of the campus. This is our Student Engagement Center, and it's going to be our new welcome for the community. We'll have parking right in front of the center for visitors, and we have a one-stop shop model. That front circle that you see is this dome piece that you see at the bottom. And that dome will light up at night. It'll be very visible. It'll literally be a beacon drawing people to it, and that's our welcome center. So that's the place that anyone that's coming to our campus can get their questions asked, get their answers, and then continue on to a one-stop shop just down the hall, all of our student services, counseling, financial aid, registration, really a welcome opportunity for our students and for the visiting families. And we're very excited and thankful to the community that we're able to do that. And that will be opening this spring of 2018. So our spring semester next year will be held in this new Student Engagement Center. We have several other buildings that are underway. One of them includes a performing arts center that will be used for both community events as well as our own mission chorus and dance programs. We also have several program initiatives, and I'm not going to go into detail on any of these because we only have a few minutes, but we do have some partnerships that really are designed to meet core community needs, infrastructure kinds of needs. And we're working with PG&E on a leadership, or on our pre-employment preparation program, working with VTA on both a leadership academy and an apprenticeship program, a formal program that brings people in from coach operators all the way up to technical positions, line tradesmen who repair and design the lines. We also have a partnership for plumbers and pipe fitters. We're working with the County of San Mateo, actually right now on that, looking at other opportunities. We also have a number of initiatives that are designed to transform the pathways into education. We're working with Santa Clara Adult Education and other partners to ease a transition into college, to help them with things like English as a second language for our English language learners, and combining those with specialized training in core fields such as childcare, hospitality, tourism, areas where we know that there's a need for the industry and a need in particular for those combination of adult basic education and then continuing on for our core college programs. We have a number of new support services that have really only begun in the last few years. We have a dedicated veteran center, that's our Valor Center, and we have a dedicated program where we bring in services from the community, working with our veterans organizations to bring services to our students on campus, give them a safe space, and give them some specialized attention. And this works in conjunction with our disabled student support programs. And the reason for that is that there are a number of veterans that have disabilities, a number of veterans have disabilities that they're not comfortable to speak about. By co-locating those spaces, it builds up that comfort level. We have an honors program that's brand new for Mission College, advanced opportunities for our students. We have a Puente program focusing on our Hispanic student population. We have a number of new academic and career programs. We have transfer degrees for the UC and CSU systems. In particular for CSU, you complete a number of courses and you're guaranteed admission into the CSU system. It's a wonderful program for students. But we're also looking at specific training opportunities. We're developing new programs such as a drone program. We're developing new health occupations programs. So it's all about looking at what are the needs in industry, looking at the data, and identifying new services and new programs to help with that. One of our core focuses is STEM. We have another apprenticeship program that's a high-tech apprenticeship program. We're working with industry as well as our neighboring community colleges. And we have a number of other programs specifically for science, technology, engineering, and math. We have STEM Week. We have specialized days. We bring people to the campus. We have specialized math programs. We're working with with area high schools and with CSUs to have a clear pathway in math, which is usually a barrier for students in STEM. And then we're very special and fortunate that we've been designated as ANAPESI and HSI institutions. ANAPESI means that we serve Asian American Pacific Islander students, and Hispanic serving means we serve Hispanic students. But they are competitive grants that you can apply for when you have those designations. And Mission College is one of 5 or 6 in the entire nation, 2-year and 4-year schools, to have successfully received both STEM grants. And we're very proud of that, and that's allowing us to do a number of new programs, working again back to K through 12 and forward to the 4-year colleges. At this point, I'm going to pass this on to Trustee Kepner.
This one?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. I really do enjoy serving on the board at West Valley Mission Community College, and being a Santa Clara resident, I've got a fondness for Mission College, and I'm very proud to share with you the good work that we're doing, and a lot of it is because we partner with people in the community, with the city and other organizations to do a lot of wonderful work, as President Peck has already discussed. So just to highlight a few, the Rotary Club of Santa Clara and Mission College have worked together to create an enterprise leadership conference that we host, and it's something that Rotary does, and it's hosted at Mission College for a lot of students in the area. Through the Chamber of Commerce, we've developed the Reality Road, so we get an opportunity to bring high school students onto our campus and expose them to various careers so that they get some ideas about what they may like to do or want to do later, which obviously then inspires them to continue with their education in ways that really do matter. We have a lot of activity at Mission College, and we want to get the word out. We've got great sports programs, our women's sports, our men's baseball, and our basketball program. We also have a wonderful music program, and we're hopeful that in the near future we'll be able to build out spaces where concerts can actually be performed, and would love to see opportunities to create and partner with other groups in the area to utilize our campus and make that a place or a destination for people in the Santa Clara community. We've had a lecture series that's been very successful. I've had the opportunity to attend some of them. Dr. Angela Davis came and spoke, which was fascinating. We've had Dr. Tim Weiss, Rebecca Walker, Assistant District Attorney Rolanda Dixon, Dr. Cornell West. It's just a great opportunity, and a lot of students come and people from the community. So we have a lot to be proud of, and a lot of hard work goes into organizing events like this. As well, we've had various fairs on campus. Some are really just attended by our students, but some go beyond our boundaries. And we're, for example, we've been hosting this college fair that is frankly now outgrown our space. We have hundreds of colleges that come, and unfortunately, we can't accommodate the number of people that come. So I think it's moving to the convention center.
Or West Valley, maybe.
Or maybe West Valley, we may take it ourselves, I don't know. But anyway, that's just an example of hard work that's done by our faculty to organize events that really encourage and expose not only our students, but our local high school students and other college students to the possibilities that exist for them. And I think often we need to be introduced to those to even think beyond our common experience. At last week's board meeting, we approved a memorandum of understanding with Santa Clara Unified School District. We are now going to have the Mission Early College High School on our campus. We have had middle school at our campus for a number of years, and it's a partnership that we've worked with Santa Clara Unified School District for many years. It has grown in popularity, and to the point that it was believed by Santa Clara Unified School District that actually starting a separate high school with its own support, its own administrative support, made the most sense for students. And this provides an alternative for students who just aren't fitting into the traditional high school environment for whatever the reason. And we are intending this program, as you'll see, to grow to 190 students over the next 3 to 4 years. And from what we understand, there is a demand, there is a need, and we're very grateful that we've had the opportunity to partner with Santa Clara Unified School District, and we envision more of that in the future. And then the other, I think what motivated us to come here the most is we want the word to get out that we have scholarships for Santa Clara residents. We currently have and are offering $1,000 to any student who has just graduated from a Santa Clara high school. And that essentially will cover, as it says, tuition, it'll cover fees, and it will cover textbooks. We want to make college accessible to all. So last year was the beginning of our program, and we had 66 students take us up on it. We want 150 students to take us up on this, and we can afford it. So we are committed to Santa Clara residents, and a commitment is shown by the money that our foundation has put towards this. It's actually our land corporation that generates, we are fortunate enough that we collect a lot of revenue from the land that sits around Mission College, and we want to turn that right back into the residents of Santa Clara, the residents of our district. So we are looking forward to this program expanding, and we are also considering, I know that there are a number of students that graduate from high schools in our city, don't go to college, go into the workforce. We're looking at ways that maybe we can pull them back into this this system and give them an opportunity. Right now, it's just for graduates from this year. We'll be eligible for next year's program, but we're looking to expand that in ways that really will serve this community. And that is our program. Thank you.
So you're not just that little old community college down the road. You're doing a lot of things. This is really amazing. I think that's why we all wanted you to come here to talk about it. And I think as you progress in a lot of these programs, we'd like to have you come back to give us, periodic updates as to what you're doing and what you wanted us to know about. For instance, that $1,000 scholarship for any Santa Clara resident graduating from high school is amazing, and I'm not sure how many people know about that, and hopefully a lot of people will take advantage of it. But you're doing phenomenal things at the college, and wherever we can partner with you, we want to do that. Vice Mayor Caserta, I've got a bunch of lights on here. So
Thank you, President
excited
Peck and
people.
Vice President Kepner. I just want to let you know your work, especially on the scholarship, is resonating. It kind of breaks my heart when Santa Clarans choose West Valley or Foothill or De Anza. And I know some students in my senior classes are looking at Mission because of your $1,000 scholarship. So will that cover a whole year of school?
It will, because frankly, community college is affordable. The combination of our tuition and fees is relatively low, which allows the remaining costs to go towards textbooks. Now, there may be a few specialized programs that would go over $1,000, but for the vast majority of students, it would cover their entire year. And in addition, we encourage students to apply for the Board of Governors fee waiver, which is provided to about 70% of our students. And that when they receive that fee waiver from the Board of Governors, then the full $1,000 can go towards a few specialized fees and the textbooks.
Great. One suggestion, if you can get in front of Santa Clara, Wilcox, and Wilson the beginning of next fall somehow, I think that'd be another way to build that traction. Keep it up.
Yeah, and we're also trying to get in front of the middle schools because we want to start educating families early that this is a definite path for their children.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis?
Thank you for the presentation. I know we have our little staff liaison, and Lisa was so excited, said, come speak, we have an audience. It's really good that you're doing this. You are truly the Santa Clara's, definitely what the community college kind of world. I mean, I think this is awesome. That $1,000 was a great thing. But I really want to get invited to when you blow up that building. Are we doing that soon?
It's under debate.
Yeah, we will be, the next building opens in spring of 18, and then it's going to take a while for us to work through cleaning out.
The other building?
Yeah, cleaning out reusable materials, sustainable practices, as well as making sure there aren't hazardous materials and so on. So probably a good 6 months to a year after January 18, when we actually will be in a position to start tearing down the building.
Ask the fire chief. We might be able to have some little drills over there that we could learn and participate in. But thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. It's wonderful to have this little jewel right smack in the middle of Santa Clara. I wanted to just recognize your wonderful international department also because Chigusa and Marina have done such a wonderful job welcoming our sister cities when students, when they've come to visit and introduce them to the campus and what college life is like. So that's been really, really beneficial to the Sister City program. I really appreciate that. And also the hospitality department. Yes, it's a wonderful place to go over. If nobody knows, Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? From, a lunch, nice, reasonable lunch, and nicely served. And that's a nice little benefit on the campus as well. So thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none? Thanks for coming. Hope to see you soon. Thank you. Very good. Thanks. Okay, next we have a presentation on recent awards for Silicon Valley Power presented by the California Municipal Utilities Association and the Northwest Public Power Association.
Thank you, Mayor. John Rockma.
Yes.
Director of Electric Utility, and maybe he'll bring Larry Owens also, or not, I'll leave it to him.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about the two awards, one from the California Municipal Utilities Association for the 2017 Resource Efficiency and Community Service Award, and the second one is the Paul J. Raver Community Service Award from the Northwest Public Power Association. So the first award was for the Best Energy Efficiency Program for a large municipal electric utility. And the program that we won it for was a Small Business Snapshot Audit and Direct Install Program. And this is a program that actually goes out, does a quick audit, and helps our small businesses in Santa Clara identify energy efficiency programs and then helps them install them. And the third-party contractor, Energy Services Group, they actually did over 3,000 of our customers have had these audits, and they've done energy efficiency projects that have saved 2 million kilowatt hours in first-year savings, or about $300,000 a year for these companies. Now, and Mary McEnroe couldn't be here tonight. She's our program manager of Public Benefit Programs. Larry Owens is here. He's our senior division manager of customer services here. The second award is for demonstrated superior leadership in the betterment of cities, states, and regions. Now, the Northwest Public Power Association is an association of 150 municipal utilities and co-ops throughout the Pacific Northwest and California. And in giving us this award, they cited our long history of providing reliable power and low rates to the citizens of Santa Clara. They talked about our diverse portfolio and our investment in renewable resources and carbon-free resources here. They also talked about us being a charter member of the Northern California Power Agency and just the long history of providing service to the community. And this is all part, our employees are always trying to balance, rates, reliability, and all the time trying to exceed the California requirements for renewable resources. So we're proud of the whole utility here. I also have here Ann Hatcher, our two assistant directors. Ann Hatcher and Kevin Kolnowski are both here tonight, too. And I do have the awards over here. So
They're all in the back there.
yeah, well, I was hoping maybe they'd come up and we do a picture.
Yes, I
with
think
you
so.
guys. So, thank you very much.
Do you actually have the awards?
I do. I have
Oh,
them
are you
both.
going to present? Or we
Yeah.
present to you?
Well, I
you
was gonna have
present
you
to
come
us?
down and I present them to you.
And the folks in the back will
They'll come
come
up for
forward?
pictures.
Thank you. So should we come over here?
Be great.
Yes,
Thank you.
wonderful, thank you. Okay, that was all the fun stuff. All right. Next item we have is the consent calendar. All items are approved with one motion unless there's an item to be pulled. Is there any member of the council liking to pull a consent item? Yes, Councilmember Watanabe.
12B4, please.
12B4. Anyone else? City Manager, do you have any items that you'd like pulled or clarifications on?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, any member of the public like an item, please come forward. Do you have any questions? I mean cards, Rod? Okay. Yes.
12A3.
12A3. Okay, anyone else? All right, is there a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar? Is there a second? Second. Motion second, lights on the motion, and that passes unanimously.
Motion, second.
Thank you.
All right, public presentations. Rod, any cards?
We have one.
Okay. Thank you. John Michael Dyer, please come forward. Welcome, sir.
Madam Mayor and honorable council members, I'm here really just as an introduction. My name is John Michael Dyer. I work for the Silicon Valley organization. I'm a public policy associate there. We were previously known as the San Jose Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce. We represent 1,400 member businesses in the Silicon Valley region and 60 right here in Santa Clara. I just wanted to come today to express our commitment to working with the city of Santa Clara and the business community here and relevant stakeholders to putting practical and responsible policy forward. So, thank you.
Well, thank you for introducing yourself and letting us know.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public presentations, please come forward.
I'm Jerry Patrick Nanny, and I'm Vice President of the Santa Clara Lawn Bowls Club. And we would like to have a new clubhouse. Let me tell you a little story. back in 2003, when the Central Library was built, our clubhouse had to be removed. For that, we got a construction check. We've had that ever since. At that time, we were promised a new clubhouse. That's 14 years ago. They even drew up an architect's drawing of what they were going to build. And I haven't heard anything since then, but I've only been with the club for a year, but I've been with lawn bowling for some 12 years. It just happens that Marcy Wong, who's the architect on this, has her phone number and her address and everything else. So I took a chance just to call her to see what she could remember, right? And so she answered the phone. I was a little surprised and a little didn't know what to do. But anyway, I asked her if she recalled. And she said, oh, yeah, the director at that time was very enthusiastic about building this clubhouse. And I said, well, what happened? And I'm not sure this is the reason why it wasn't built, but there was some contention as to multiple use of the clubhouse. This would be equivalent to you opening up your living room to a couple of clubs to come in there and do their meeting. It would be very disturbing. We have a lot of personal gear and club gear and things of this nature. So what I'm hoping that we're probably, let me say it this way, we're probably on the priority list for the longest, and we should get an award for that, but I'd like to just see that you give some attention to getting a clubhouse that was promised 14 years ago. That's all I have to say.
Can I ask you a question, Jerry? You
Sure.
said you had did you say you had a construction check?
Shack.
Oh, shack.
I'm sorry.
I said, oh, you haven't cashed a check since 2003. Okay, you have I see, okay.
And it's starting to rot. It's going to need some repair, but there's no sense repairing it because I'm sure this council here will help us along to get a little bit higher on the priority list. I am working with Jim, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name.
Shara.
Oh, is that it?
Teixeira?
Yeah. Okay, Cheryl. And so we're going to be signing an MOU and working that way. But we sure could use some help to fulfill a promise that was made 14 years ago.
Well, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We can't take action, but maybe by consensus, we can refer this back to the city manager to come back with a report to the council on the history of this and where we are and what Director Teixeira has discovered about this. Is that consensus? We're okay with that? All right, thank you. We're going to follow through on that and make sure we have this gentleman's information
Yes,
for follow through.
Deputy Director Dale Seal is here.
Thank
He'll
you,
get the
Dale.
information, yeah.
If you wouldn't mind getting his information. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You wanted to say something?
No, I just have a closing thing. I just want to say I'm 80 years old now. I can't wait another 14 years. And I like to enjoy this. I couldn't hear you. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Scott Lane.
I think she was trying to say you don't look 80. Man, we should all take up lawn bowling, look 10, 20 years younger. Man, fantastic. Scott Lane, I just wanted to thank the city council, the city manager, city attorney, staff for having the meeting that was out there at the Santa Moscuna Creek Trail outside Levi Stadium, Gate C, and walked around, and then you had a private session. I know it probably went longer than some people wanted, but I think to have everybody, if not on the same page, at least in the same chapter, I think was a great precedence. And I think if that's something we can do for other mega projects, that would be a good thing. I'd also like to talk about a larger picture, which is, in general, and I say this, the microphone's a little loud tonight, brands such as Disney, American Express, they create a wonderful experience. People talk about it. I don't know what it is now, but it used to be years ago when people would love something, they'd tell 9 people. It went to 14 people. It's probably 1,400 now with social media. But so basically what I look at that, I think we were all sitting there outside the stadium thinking, how can we make this work for everybody? How could we get together? And this is the spirit that's working with the city manager, the attorney, and the city council, and the mayors, and the staff. So I want to celebrate that. But I also want to say, priority of excellence isn't a 1-hour gap between people at a venue. It's not asking the city council to go an hour late. and saying no, and then you go an hour and 15 late. It's not running out of food. We have black eye after black eye after black eye. The significant amount of events are out there at Levi's Stadium. We have no clue how much it's costing us, what they're making, what we should be making. What's happening here? So on the one hand, you have that where you don't have a great experience. You also should have a partner. I mean, Disney has wonderful partners. We should expect the world's best from this. I think Cedar Fair has been stepping up to the plate with very imaginative ways to do it. How do we get the 49ers to step in? If I were Levi's Corporation, I would not want to be associated with this stadium and the shenanigans that are going on with the San Francisco 49ers. I really wouldn't, because it affects their brand. But here's where I'm getting to this. Corporations, if they don't reinforce their brand, they lose out in court. I feel we are losing our ability to protect Santa Clara because we are not protecting ourselves and our brand. It's not just the brand, it's also the encroachment into something that's not even their property, where they have the Safeway mile. They get benefit from it, but they're basically going to engage in squatters' rights. You've got 2.5 years of squatters' rights. Yes, that mainly is for housing, but what is the end game here? We need a partner that understands what our end game is. If the center of what's possible is what we think it is, we need to be on the same page with Levi's, and I do want our city attorney to get more staff time, consulting time, whatever, to document all the errors which they need to come up that they're short, they want to improve, and if it comes to fact we need to get a divorce at some point, then we'll have whatever needs to be done. But I think we need to do whatever we can to protect ourselves, our brand, and our image of Santa Clara. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't have any cards. Please come forward.
I don't know when we're supposed to be getting the information that we've asked for on the stadium, for example, the approval program for putting the bridges where they aren't supposed to be, et cetera. And it's not on this agenda, so I guess it's just going to slide off and into the sunset, and we don't get our answers as usual. The city manager made a statement earlier, he doesn't like CPRAs. Well, you get lots of questions because you don't answer any. So until you start answering questions, you're going to get more CPRAs. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Being out on the stadium last week was actually very interesting. We were kind of bamboozled. It was nice to see they set up the second bike valet like they're supposed to have. They had them all staffed up, looking nice and pretty. And the whole thing was a farce. As soon as you all went inside to have your closed-door meeting, they all left. It wasn't open. So they played us for fools. So I hope in our letter that we send to them saying, yo-ho, we caught you. It was very impressive to see how many people actually used the creek trail. There were lots of people that walked in, lots of people that rode their bicycles in. I'll tell you one thing I witnessed a very bad bicycle accident because the city has not done what they were supposed to do. Or I'm sorry, the stadium authority and the stadium. There was a rather large man riding his bicycle as he transitioned off the hard pack onto the trail supplemental to get to the security. The sun was in his eyes and he crashed completely over the handlebars, where he laid on the ground holding his head on his back. I was afraid he was going to have a very severe injury. So fixing that problem needs to become a #1 priority. I mean, this guy took one hell of a tumble. And there's a lot of people, they like to keep saying, well, we're worried about the bicyclists and the pedestrians work with one another. It was amazing to see how well they did. They're adults, and even the kids knew how to interact and interweave and not run into one another. We're going to go back again for those of us that couldn't go upstairs and come up with a path. So hopefully that'll get printed when that is, and we'd love to have the city attorney and the city city mayor come out with us again and come up with a solution. I'm tired of the no, no, no. We need to get to yes until we have more lawsuits from people like this guy who went completely over the handlebars. So it does work. There's no reason we can't, and nobody's doing anything to even advertise it's there. We asked people, how did they know about it? And they just found out by happenstance. So in this world, we want to have more people using transportation. It's a great opportunity, and we're not doing a good job with that either.
Thank you,
So
Debbie.
thank you. And thank you for setting that up. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Jain?
My name is Seds Jain. I'm here mostly to plea again for having tentative agendas printed. There are things that are going to be coming up on the agenda in a month or two that we really don't have any idea what dates they're going to be as the public. The other interesting idea is that, we're, especially on the El Camino, you're going to be talking about these projects on the El Camino, but other cities have like panels of architects that look at buildings from an aesthetic point of view to make sure that we have some architecturally interesting buildings in the city. So I'm wondering if we could have an architect on retainer or something that would review plans simply for aesthetics. Finally, I ride my bike a lot, and on Homestead, there's a good bike trail, but it comes and goes. And one of the places that it goes is by the Bill Wilson Adult Center, the Adult Education Center there. And there's a park there that people play cricket and soccer, but those people park along Homestead. They could actually, on the weekends, park at the school site, at the Wilson parking lot, and we could get rid of the parking along Homestead so that we could add a true bike lane there on both sides. So I'm advocating for eliminating parking on the north side of Homestead by that school. Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask Teresa, if, as the head of the governance committee, are you talking about tentative agendas? Is that on your plate, or should we give it to you? I didn't know if
We've
you were
looked at it in the
discussing
past. I was going to bring it up again with the city manager about possibly having some kind of rolling time. And it's maybe not a formal agenda, but something similar to the list that we now get. So we could definitely look at it at the next governance committee meeting.
Consensus, give it to the governance committee? Yeah? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Yes, please come forward. And then the other questions will refer to staff. Thank you.
Hassam Hagag here. I know the city council is a nonpartisan government body, but I did want to share something that happened over the weekend, which I had the very distinct honor and privilege to be a part of, and that was the California Democratic Party convention up in Sacramento. I am an elected representative for our district, AD 25, and something happened at the convention which I think was very monumental, and it's something that probably we should all learn from here in Santa Clara and maybe adopt as well, a version similar to that, and that was the passing of a resolution titled "Denounce the Influence of Money in Politics and Act in Accordance with the California Democratic Party Platform." And I'll do my best to speed read here. Whereas the 2016 CDP platform states a healthy democracy is based on public financing of political campaigns at all levels of government, campaign spending limits, and full disclosure of political spending, we will fight the culture of corruption and cronyism. And whereas money's influence in politics corrupts a healthy democracy, as stated in the Princeton study testing theories of American politics, elites, interest groups, and average citizens. In the 2011 model legislation, American Anti-Corruption Act, and the Sunlight Foundation study, Fixed Fortunes, Biggest Corporate Political Interests Spend Billions, Get Trillions, which reports that the 200 most politically active companies in the U.S. spent $5.8 billion on lobbying and campaign contributions from 2007 to 2012. And those same companies got $4.4 trillion directly back from the government they lobbied. And whereas so far, voters in over a third of the states in the union, including California, have voted to overturn Citizens United versus FEC, demonstrating that the voters want to end the funding of political expenditures by corporations. Therefore, be it resolved that the CDP will publicly condemn corporations and lobbyists that finance political campaigns as they perpetuate a culture of corruption and cronyism and thus violates the CDP platform. And be it further resolved that the CDP will send a copy of this resolution to the California congressional delegation, including all its elected officials, calling on the delegation and elected officials to unwaveringly uphold the CDP platform and reminding them that failure to do so is a dereliction of their elected and fiduciary duties as members of the CDP, as well as a copy sent to the Democratic National Committee. I was very honored to be one of the first signers of this. And in light of what we've seen in the last several elections here in Santa Clara, I think it's very pertinent that the city of Santa Clara look to pass a similar resolution. And that would be step number one. And a further step would be to enact some sort of an ordinance that would limit, if not eliminate, the influence of corporate money in politics here in our wonderful city. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan. Anyone else? Please come forward. Okay, seeing none now, we're going to go back to the next item, which is a consent item, consent items pulled for discussion. The first request was 12B4, Kathy Watanabe. That's the acceptance of the Silicon Valley Community Foundation grant in the amount of $30,000 to conduct a community survey among residents to provide feedback regarding their view of police, community trust in policing, perception of public safety, and satisfaction with community policing initiatives, and approval to execute the Silicon Valley Community Foundation grant agreement and all other documents related to the grant, and approval of estimated police grant revenue from other agencies and appropriations.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as I was preparing for the meeting and I came across this particular item, I was glad to see that the police department has received this grant. I know Santa Clara is known for its safety, but at the same time, I think this is a great opportunity for the police department to do an outreach. I didn't know if the chief wanted to come and talk about the grant and how it will be delivered into the community, but also with the stadium now, I mean, we do still have issues as a result of the Levi Stadium and the north side, and I hope that this will be an opportunity for the community to come and talk about their concerns and maybe their ideas and share them, and maybe we can get some resolution to some of the issues that have been taking place.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Approximately 3 months ago, I was contacted by Gina Dalma. She's a vice president from government relations from Silicon Valley Community Foundation. The manager and I met her. We discussed our relationship with the community, and I explained all the various programs from PAL to DARE to Chow the Chief, Coffee with the Cop, and so on. And she was actually very impressed with our engagement with the community. During the conversation, she mentioned that she has funded surveys, and I was very much interested in that because I think it's very important to engage our community to see how we are doing and if the service we're providing is what the citizens want. So she indicated to me that they have a partnership with My90, and there is a representative here from My90, Kona Shen, and I'm sure she would be able to explain a little bit more about the program. The My90 is primarily a phone app, a text survey. I explained to her that it would be very beneficial that I wanted to reach out to our seniors and other people who may not be tech savvy like myself and be able to submit an online survey or an actually hard document survey. So we're planning to not only engage in focus groups with not only our community members, but faith-based community members, businesses, and then also reach out to the seniors and go out to like the Art and Wine Festival and other events to promote this program. So I'm hoping to get as much engagement from our citizens, but I know that Kona is here if you would like her to expand a little bit more information on that. Kona?
Thanks, Chief Sellers. Thank you for having me. I'll just give you a very brief overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I started a company called My90 after doing a lot of research with both community members and police officers with the rest of my team, and these interviews kind of taught us that, as one officer put it, 90% of the story gets lost when the public and the police interact. So we formed our group with the mission of recovering that 90% of information by making it easier and safer for the public to give their feedback to the police, even if they don't necessarily already have a positive relationship with local officers. And then at the same time, serve cities and police departments by helping them get more information that they can use to gauge public sentiment and identify ways to improve that moving forward. So the platform, as Chief Sellers said, is primarily text message based, and we do this so that we can engage as many people as possible and do so in a way that's anonymous and accessible. But we're committed to partnering with the city and the department and local communities to get as representative a picture as possible, as well as dive a little bit deeper on areas that need even more engagement, particularly around potentially communities of color or other members of the community who say that they would like to really dig in on this subject and help us put together our findings. Are there any questions I can answer?
Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor. So I read through the document, the memorandum that was in our packet, and there will be meetings like with focus groups, I mean, going out into the community and meeting with focus groups as well, not just necessarily text messaging, since some people are a little bit challenged and meeting one-on-one would work better, so there will be that, okay.
Yes, council member, and this is a great opportunity to just start to get the word out there that we'll want as many people as possible. We will love it if people here who just hear about it for the first time reach out. We'll make sure to market this and spread the word so that as many people as possible can make their voice heard.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you. If I could just ask a few questions about, like, so you're using text message methodology. So are you randomly selecting people in Santa Clara that, you know, or where you have their phone numbers to send the text messages to?
So we actually don't have anybody's phone number. That's very important to state. And what we'll do is we'll put the phone number out there for the public to learn about, and they will initiate conversations by choosing to text the phone number. So we will not have any lists of people's phone numbers. Anyone who engages with the conversations will do so, you know, willingly and with consent by texting the number themselves. And we hope that that will kind of help us demonstrate why people should feel comfortable engaging with it.
So then, are there set questions that you ask, or is this, do you send out the kind of the invitation or the notice if there's been, you know, a particular event that's occurred that you want to gauge feedback, or, you know, so what's kind of the structure then of this, once this interaction begins?
Sure. So when you are texting the phone number, it feels very much like a conversation. It will reply automatically and walk you through a series of questions that have been predetermined. These questions are designed, they're really action-oriented, so they're designed to hear what people think about what's going on now, as well as what they think should happen moving forward. And for that reason, it will be a combination of multiple choice, but also open-ended questions. And it will be available in multiple languages so that people will feel most comfortable really saying what they want to say. And between the qualitative data and the quantitative data, we think we'll get a pretty complete picture.
So will the questions change? Like, I know the grant is over a period of, you know, quite a number of months. Will multiple surveys go out, or just one, and you'll just try to get people to answer the same survey?
That's a great question. We'll do one representative citywide survey. This will have the same questions for everybody that we'll be able to use as a bit of a snapshot of what the city is thinking. We will also have separate conversations and surveys based on public events and other outreach. So if you attend National Night Out, for example, or Coffee with a Cop, you will probably receive different questions based on that event to supplement that initial survey. And the focus groups, for example, will also be used to supplement the main survey findings later in the project phase so that we can better understand why people might have an opinion, not just what they want to say during the survey.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe, you have another question?
Yeah, as you were talking about text messaging, I just wanted to make sure, I think I know the answer, but just to clarify, sometimes there's a charge for text messaging. Will there be any charge associated with this?
So standard text messaging rates will apply, and that varies according to people's carriers. But because of the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, there's no additional fee. So it would be the same cost as if you were texting a friend or family member, but no additional cost.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, thank you for that information. Councilmember Watanabe, would you like to make a motion to?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to accept. Sorry?
Accept the item?
Yes, accept the item.
The second came real fast.
Yes.
Motion second? Yes. Public, thank you.
I have a question. And this is from reading the report, and maybe it's just my misunderstanding of how the certified as to budget form works, but it shows 2 line items of 30,000 each. Is one of those for accepting the grant and then the second one for paying it out, or are we matching the grant? So in other words, the city will still pay 30,000 out of its pocket, and then the grant matches that 30,000, and the total cost is 60,000? That is my question. In other words, are those 2 line items, one for receiving the grant money and then the other one for expending it? Or are we matching the 30,000?
Is the answer
from the
yes to
grant?
that?
Says yes, you receive the money and then you have to appropriate to expend it.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out. Scott Lane, I think you had a card in on this item. Could you sit any further away, Scott? Okay, just asking. Okay.
Sorry, I had to charge my phone, sorry. I want to commend the chief for thinking proactively. I think a lot of the problem around the country is the fact that when these things are bubbling under the surface and they're not acted upon, this is where people, there's dissension, we all know what happens. It's a wonderful thing, but I would actually ask us to even think what's happening in other countries. Bits and pieces of something called restorative justice have been happening in Canada, England, Brazil, New Zealand, Australia, and Fiji. Essentially what these are is restorative justice looks to the community. They get trained by police professionals, but restorative justice basically tries to have this some of the minor offenses not go into the court system. There's been a lot of anecdotal and specific data that shows if you can start to address some of these little issues, it doesn't become the bigger issues that then you have to get the police involved. It also is a way to make sure that sometimes when police resources are brought into situations, we're spread thin with our police force as it is. So there are ways that maybe this can help foster a multi-layer system here. But really the key of where restorative justice comes in is the zero tolerance that's really addressed in communities of color. Communities of color, once again, have zero tolerance that is never put into, say, a Saratoga, but they'll do it in parts of San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, and I think we want to make sure that we don't do that in Santa Clara. Because let me give you an analogy. There is an author I was listening to on the radio, and he was talking about 10 people, primarily kids, mostly people of color, are shot by the police every single day. Now, I'm not saying whether or not it was justified or not, but the point is when they asked the white folks, were you shocked by this? They were shocked. When they asked the people of color, were you shocked by this? They said, no, I just wish it wasn't my kid. How heartbreaking is that? So this is great we're doing this, but restorative justice is the answer that we really need to look for other countries and come up with that as part of our tool belt to fix things. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis and I attended a workshop last year at Santa Clara University on restorative justice, so it was really educational. And we had many neighbors in the University Square neighborhood that attended as well. So I agree, it's a method that is really helpful. So, any other questions or comments on this item? So a motion and a second. Lights on the motion, and that passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item pulled was 12A3, Scott Lane, you pulled this item, and that is to note and file the Santa Clara Convention Center and Convention Visitor Bureau Activity Report for fiscal year 2016-17, third quarter. Scott, did you have a question on that? Comments?
Yeah, was there someone here that can actually present 2 minutes of that so the public would understand what's going on with the third quarter?
City Manager?
Yes, Mayor, we do have the General Manager of Convention Center, Lisa Marino, in the audience, but, I mean, if there's any specific questions we could answer, we didn't come prepared with a presentation. If you want a quick overview, maybe they can...
Maybe a quick overview of what's there?
Lisa, could you please?
Welcome, Lisa.
City Council and city staff. I would like to ask Mr. Lane, do you have a specific question, or would you like just an overview?
Just an overview.
Okay. The quarterly report obviously is put out every quarter and is an overview of our business operations. It goes over the convention center, the finances, as well as the number of groups, attendees, the type of groups, conventions, trade shows, banquets, meetings, as well as some of the CVB activity, the Convention and Visitors Bureau activity, with leads, hotel rooms, booking nights, as well as marketing, going over social media, those areas as well. Mr. Lane, do you have any other specific questions?
I can make a comment, but I just.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought it would actually be more public. I think the public should know more about this. This is a huge potential jewel for Santa Clara, and we really are not funding it well enough. I think we're not demanding that we have a lot more activities here. It's a competitive world. I know it's hard to get things from San Francisco because everyone wants to be in the city. But primarily, what I'm hoping is that we focus some additional city resources on this to find out what we can do. There is a dialogue of information from them that actually gives us information that we don't have, for example, from Levi Stadium. So I wanted to use it also as a counterpoint to say, if we have this information from here, why don't we have this same information from every other function, including Levi Stadium? And I think there are ways that we can probably work together, even with the San Jose convention as well. That has happened sometimes, and I think that was a very creative way to have the VTA involved and shuttle people back and forth. And once again, I think it shows what's possible, but I think they're a bit underfunded right now. So I wanted to bring that up in this budget cycle that we're talking about to say, once again, what investments, targeted investments can we do with the convention to try to drive more business? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Is there a motion to note and file this report?
Second.
Motion second. Rajiv, did you want to comment on that?
I could just give a general comment. I mean, there's Economic Development Committee hearing all the discussions about the convention center. I think these kind of suggestions that Mr. Lane just pointed out, those could go there as we look for the operation of the convention center in the future. This is just strictly a quarterly.
I know. I just maybe.
the consultant we hired?
Do you want to talk about the consultant that we hired for the convention center?
Okay. The city has also retained the services of a consulting firm by the name of JLL. They are looking at different models to operate it. We are working under the premise that the Chamber of Commerce that manages the convention center at this point may not want to continue to do that after 2018. So in the meantime, we are looking at different models that we can operate the convention center under. So that's just the operations of it. However, to increase the services that they provide or other activities, that's what I was referring to, that the Economic Development Committee is discussing all that, and maybe some comments can be brought to that committee.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. We're ready to vote, Debbie.
Did you close the public hearing part? I
It's
didn't
not a
hear you.
public hearing,
I
but-
mean,
Okay,
not the-
go ahead,
the
make
public
your
input.
comments. Thank you.
I don't know if we've ever seen a marketing plan coming out of Levi Stadium, but it would also be interesting to see how the marketing plan for the convention center dovetails and how they interoperate with the marketing plan for the convention center. And I don't think I've seen one from them either. So as we have two assets, and as we're looking at a city that's close to bankrupt or close to in bankruptcy and needs to find funding sources, I think if we start doing some marketing outreach and start looking at resources better, we need to start looking at how do we leverage the assets we do have. So we need to get people in that know about marketing venues, and I don't know that we have either one in place, because I don't know what they do at the convention center right now, and if they are doing outreach and marketing, and it's not just pressing buttons on, the computer, but also, we have Levi's, we have other resources, and until we have an integrated plan and we know what those are as the stadium authority and as a council, we need to start looking at those resources. So I'd like to see the marketing plan for Levi's and also one for them too. So that's all my thing as we look at the money part. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis?
Debbie, I can answer that question for you. I've reached out and had a meeting with Jimmy Curio, and they are going to start producing a marketing plan for the stadium. And also what goes on in my marketing committee, they do attend a monthly meeting, the convention center, and they let us and they give us updates on what's coming and what's going on and what's happening. But right now, they're going through a process of this person that was hired to evaluate what was going on. So we're all in that process, but that kind of happens at my marketing meetings.
Yeah, but showing what's on the books and which buttons you push isn't
They're
a marketing
working, they are
plan.
getting,
Okay.
they're 49ers, Jimmy Curio has promised me he will devise a marketing plan and show us what they're going to do and how the money will come in for our non-NFL events
Okay.
in the process. So I can get back to you on that.
I hope we get it. I mean, they contractually should have been giving it to us over 3 years ago, so.
We're working on it.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Well, probably by the time we approve the budget, we'll get a report from the Convention Visitors Bureau on a marketing plan for this coming up year, I assume, City Manager?
That's correct, Mayor.
Yes.
We have a presentation plan.
Okay, very good. So that'll be helpful. All right. Once again, motion second, lights on the motion. And that note and file passes unanimously. Next item we have on the agenda is unfinished business, information report, disposition of previously filed preliminary review applications for sites within the El Camino Real specific plan area. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this item needs a little bit of clarification, and I'll try that. This is not an action item, but this may have caused some confusion, and it could be because of two reasons. Number one, maybe the staff didn't get the direction clearly last time, and secondly, maybe we are off track on this one and we would like to hear from the council. If you recall, back in April, for the El Camino specific plan, we said we'll wait 6 to 10 months before other projects come in for approval, but there were 3 or 4 projects in the process at that time along El Camino. And council included those projects in that they could come forward. But last meeting, the citation homes, or known as SCS development or something like that, they came forward and they wanted to be considered in the same way as the other 4. Now, the only difference is these new projects, citation, et cetera, which are listed in this memo, they've only gone through a preliminary application process. They are not really in the process of approval, but preliminary. But council direction by consensus was to include these projects as well in that whole list of projects. Now, this is by no means any approval of any project, and we clarified in the report this time and previously that they could come forward and go through the process with no guarantee that these projects will be approved. Now, with that, I'll stop here, and this is only informational because Councilmember Watanabe asked for this kind of report to come back. And that's where, if we misunderstood, please let us know. Otherwise, Director of Community Development, Andrew Crabtree, is also available to answer questions.
Councilmember Davis, before we go to Mr. Crabtree.
Oh, okay. City Manager, if you could answer this question. There were numerous emails that came in today from a few of our residents, and their curiosity was about the Prometheus project with 700 units. So they didn't
Right.
know that was there, so there was quite a few emails, actually.
Sure, I
From that
can-
one local group. So could you explain that to them in
Sure.
TV land? Because they seem to be a little upset with that.
Right. And this is the project at 3501 El Camino Real. Excuse me. And yes, the date is dated back to October 5th, 2015. And as I mentioned previously, they've gone through a preliminary process where they ask questions and staff answers those. Now, there's no end date on those kind of applications. It's not like after 6 months it expires or after a year that kind of process expires. It's not like a permit type of situation. So we just listed that as something because they have rights to that property to develop. They asked the questions, and that's why this particular project was listed. So I don't know if that clearly answered that or not. Okay.
Well, maybe we can hear from our Community Development Director, because this whole item has confused me tremendously. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. So I guess to a degree, I would be reiterating some of the things that the city manager has just explained, but, this began actually at the city council study session on the general plan, March 28th, where some council members expressed a concern as we were talking about moving forward with that specific plan process, that perhaps we shouldn't have projects coming in while we were in the process of doing that. Staff came back on the 18th and asked for clarification around, do you want to formally give direction that we should, what we should do with these applications, and you summarized that. And then on May 9th, we heard from the council that there was an interest in including projects with preliminary review applications as well in what the council would consider pending applications. And just to clarify, at no point was there any direction or any action that would prevent people from filing applications. We can continue to work on applications. And in fact, I believe that the explanation was that projects could still come to the council, but the council was communicating that you were not favorably inclined to look at those types of new applications for zoning and general plan changes while we were out engaging the community to better understand what the community's vision is for the El Camino Real. So all of this is really, I think, primarily intended to just, apply some common sense and say if we're out looking at what a process with the community, we shouldn't try to undermine that with applications. But at the same time, we want to be sensitive to those people who have already invested time and effort in developing their applications, and so give them their opportunity to make their case if they should move forward with those projects.
So that table 1 that has the 4 projects there,
right?
They've had preliminary review applications in, some more recently, others for quite a while. So you're just listing them for our information?
Right. So at the last meeting, the council said, well, we're interested in viewing preliminary review applications potentially as also in the process, and asked what those were. And so we went back and went through the books, and we know we've had ongoing conversations with these applicants. The oldest one being the Prometheus one on El Camino Real. But we know that they're still working on environmental issues that they have to address, that they're in the process of developing an application, that I met with them in the fall and talked about their plan. So it's not something that, we have an application in front of us, but they have been continuing to work on it, to my understanding. So, for the council's information, it was presented here.
And so those other projects that were set forward by the council a little month or two ago, those are proceeding?
So those other projects...
Or just information? I'm just trying to understand.
That's correct. These are, because last time the council, when you included the citation project, when they made the presentation, the direction from council was to include all other projects like them as well. And we were going to just take that direction and not come back to you, but last week, Councilmember Watanabe asked for information on those projects. So this is only information, sharing with you a list of projects that have gone through a preliminary application process, no action needed today.
So we have told all these projects that are coming forward, you can proceed ahead, but with caution, knowing the council's in the middle of a El Camino Real study. And so they all know that we're in the middle of the study. They know that.
It'll take them, at least if they were to really proceed, it'll take them 3-4 months to develop plans and then the environmental documentation. And we will be at that stage anyway, the 6 to 10 month timeframe.
In our 6 to 10 month timeframe.
Yes.
Okay, I think I understand. So this again is for no action. Councilmember Watanabe and then Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Crabtree, I'm sorry, I just had a lot of just understanding what was being done here, because so many different projects were coming forward. It was just hard to keep track of what's going forward, what's going to be, what's new, what's old. So could you tell me, based on the table, this table 1, there are 4 projects: Prometheus, Barry Swenson Builders, Citation Homes, and then another Prometheus. Are those, what is the status of those, please?
Yeah. So we, all 4 have submitted preliminary review applications, which is a very informal process. Someone can give us anything, a 1-page, whatever it is, and ask for feedback. And that's a process that we don't view quite the same way normally as like a rezoning application where there's a significant investment in preparing plans. There's fees that are paid that are fairly significant and so forth. So these 4, have all done that initial submittal of something and asked for feedback. And that's where it is. I've met with the applicants, we've had some discussions of plans as we might do, but we would be, if they were to, the next step for them would be to file an actual application, which has not happened yet, for rezoning or a general plan amendment in one case. And then, we would start our full formal process, referrals, community meetings, all that work would occur. But we don't normally start that until we actually have a formal rezoning or general plan application submitted to the city.
Okay, great. Now, I went back to the April 18th meeting, and there were 3 projects that came up. There was Ridgecrest, Davidovich, and Mariani.
Correct.
What is the status of those?
Right. So those are 3 projects that did in fact, prior to that meeting, had submitted zoning and general plan and/or general plan amendment applications. So they've continued to do work. There have not been any specific milestones that have occurred on those projects since April, but we know that they're off working with their environmental consultants to prepare the studies and so forth that are part of the application process. And we anticipate that sometime in the next few months to a year, and depending on the project, they would be ready for a hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Davis and then Colstead.
Andrew, I just have a request. On all these applications that are sitting on El Camino Real, can I get a map, an overlay? And can you give me all of these, because it just seems like there's some here, some here, some here, that are kind of presented to us because we did the gatekeeper kind of thing last week. But to me, it's very confusing. It's like this pops up, then this pops up, and I think I just need clarification on where these are in the specific plan, where the application process is, just a list, just a timeline of where everybody is. If I could have that, I think it would be easier for me to understand and maybe some other people, because last week was confusing and now this week there's 3 more, and then we got these letters from residents saying, I don't get this, where did this come from? So I think it's been confusing.
City Attorney, maybe before, and then Councilmember Colstead, then O'Neill.
I hate to quote Shakespeare in this way, but this is really much ado about nothing, because really, you didn't really take any action last week because it was public presentation. The action you did take before was simply indicating how you might feel about a project that, was going to be on the El Camino before you had done your work on the El Camino specific plan. So all you would be doing tonight, if you were to indicate either, it's really not before you, it's just really informational, but if you were to indicate any ideas from the council about what's on this list, these projects are different than the ones that you said before. You can go ahead and proceed knowing still that you're at risk, that the specific plan is not far enough along that we would approve you. But you did want to indicate originally to the projects that really were, not really even in the pipeline yet, which these are not, that, it's at your own risk. We can't stop you. I specifically advise you, you're not doing it a moratorium on accepting applications. People are still free to accept their applications. But the council was simply indicating that until the specific plan was further along, you may well be wasting your time by trying to move your project through too quickly. So you're not really saying anything different tonight.
Okay.
One way or the other in terms of these projects. They're on notice that, you're very early along. They may not even get anywhere near you until the specific plan is further along. So I don't think you have to really think too
Clarify
much
it?
about
Okay.
what, you haven't really made any decision. You were just simply indicating how you might react to the project if they came too early in the specific plan process. And that's all you were really doing.
Well, my question mostly is the people that are sending emails to us are totally confused.
And
They
that's why
think
I'm
that
trying
this
to
is
explain, I'm
through-
trying to
okay.
explain that you're not doing anything.
We're not
with-
doing anything.
You're not approving the project, you're not disapproving the project. You're just simply indicating to them, proceed at your own risk. Our general indication is that we would really like, not like you to see you come forward until the specific.
Process is done.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
really so for the folks listening at home, the council's really not doing anything tonight.
Okay.
One way or the other with respect to moving these projects along.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilmember Colstead.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't know who this question's for, whether it's the city manager, the city attorney, or the planning director, but these three companies, I think we all know them, they spent some money to get to this place that they're at, and I assume that they're going to be, as they work through the planning process, talking to planning staff, and then maybe they'll graduate up to the planning commission, and they'll have architect drawings and feasibility studies and all of this. Now, as that process is going, over here we have the El Camino specific study process. If the El Camino specific plan comes out and it's not compatible with what these three developers are proposing, will all of their work and investment be for nothing? And they'll have to comply with this El Camino specific project.
That's generally correct. And, that's the indication we've given to previous projects and these now. These are much far behind than the other ones that you approved previously.
Okay.
But they're doing it at their own risk. And generally speaking, we've told everyone that we need to do this specific plan visioning process, which will take 6 to 10 months. But we can't stop them, as the city attorney said, there's no moratorium. So there's no action being taken or planned to be taken.
Yeah, and if they're smart, they'll participate in the specific plan process so that their project comes out within what our desired zoning would be for the street.
I thought that might be the answer, but I just wanted it out there so these people that are sending us the emails that Councilmember Davis was talking about might get some clarity on this going forward. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Councilmember Colstead. Councilmember O'Neill.
Yeah, I won't belabor the point, but so I think the city attorney and Councilmember Colstead have clarified it. Just for the members of the public, anybody can, purchase land and start, or start even without purchasing land, start doing some environmental work and all of that. And we did on that, I know it was kind of, I hadn't heard and had an update for, I think a year and a half or more about the 700 units at what most people call like the Chili's property or project. So that it's not like that's eminently coming to the planning commission or something. I mean, I don't even know if there's been a scoping or a project review or, any of this, so I think that the people don't, just to reassure everybody, anybody can be working on a project. And I think people are obviously, people who want to develop are concerned because they put a lot of money into it. But I think to clarify, there are no guarantees. And this is probably, those projects could be, particularly that Lawrence and El Camino, I don't know where they are, but Andrew, could it be like even a couple of years away from coming to the planning commission? Because is it, with environmental, do they need to do an EIR?
Well, let's put it this way, there's not even a formal application. This is just a preliminary inquiry on that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Not to belabor that further.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I have some public comments. Scott Lane. No, oh, okay, no, public comment from Scott Lane. Any others, please come forward.
Can we get a presentation from the planning department of what in the hell they're doing? Because it seems like we have the most disorganized, time-wasting center hole of planning department I've ever heard of. If they're doing work and they haven't been compensated for it, they shouldn't be doing that, number one. We should have some kind of a layout or a map that shows all the projects that they're working on, that the public should be made aware of immediately as soon as they start talking about it. So you have this thing that pops up about 7 units. No, I think the public does have a right to know that they're working and knowing about that. And why is this so disheveled? I mean, I think this is the most screwed up thing we've ever had. Now we got 2 weeks in a row with 2 programs that come forward with the planning department or the city manager or wherever these came from that offer the same level of angst and questions from the public and even the council. So I think we need a presentation of what the process is in the planning department, and probably that needs some serious tweaking, because if we've got things that people are just barely talking about, maybe that's what's causing the problems in the city with these programs, and maybe we got developers spending a lot of money they shouldn't be spending on because we've got people who shouldn't even be talking to them. So we got tail wagging dog, or something's amiss somewhere just on having 2 weeks in a row where we have another proposal coming out of the planning department that doesn't make sense. So is there some way, do we have to put in a formal request as a citizen to say, can we get a formal presentation from the planning department that says, how does this process work? And then work with the council or the city manager or something to get it to make sense and make sure we have the public input in the right part and the public knowledge plugged into the whole process, because that seems to be where the problem is in this whole process. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else?
Hossam Hagag here. If you run the numbers, the Barry Swinson project, it states 55 units, and when you pull up the APN, it's 1 acre. That's 55 units per that acre. Citation Homes is 54 townhomes over 0.67 acres, which amounts to 80.6 units per acre. Prometheus with 700 units.
That's incorrect, yeah, but that's okay.
Prometheus
Sorry.
with 700 units over 10.6 acres, that amounts to 66 units per acre. So while these may not be general amendments, these would be a rezone to PD, which in my opinion is no different than a general plan amendment, because they can just request whatever the heck they want, and so long as the council approves it, they'll get it. So I get that, the developers should proceed at their own risk, but the whole point of the gatekeeper process is to not waste their time, but also to alleviate the fear and worry from the residents. And if there isn't even a formal application as indicated by the city manager, then why not just wait and participate with the El Camino specific plan? And I definitely agree with what Debbie just said about why are our city employees spending time when there isn't a formal application, because when there isn't a formal application, they haven't even paid the permit fee yet. And so our city employees are working on the public dime with no compensation for no money. And then also, developers will say, we've been working on this forever. Well, because you didn't listen to the council's advice, which is to tell you we're not ready for you yet. And the question is, will the council have unwarranted sympathy for these developers when they come back and cry alligator tears that they have spent all this time and money when we warned them not to? And I'm going to tell you that certainly the residents won't extend any sympathy, and I hope the council indicates the same. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to caution that I think some of those numbers that you threw out in terms of acreage may be incorrect, so we'll have to verify those numbers.
Sure. I mean, it is
the units per acre. I know at least one of those projects was not, it's more than 0.6 acres.
Well, then that's from the city map, official city map website, so that needs to be revised then.
Yeah, I agree. And then secondly, the staff responded to a question by a council member, and that's a reason for this item. So,
Understand.
okay, but thank you. Your points are well taken. Anyone else? All right, is there a motion to note and file this report? Motion, second. Any other discussion? Lights on the motion, and that passes unanimously for a note and file, no action. Okay, next we have items set for hearing. The first is adoption of a resolution approving the water rate schedule 2017.01 and recycled water rate schedule 2017-02 effective immediately for water delivered on or after June 1st, 2017 and billed beginning July 1st, 2017, increasing the potable water rate by 15% and increasing the recycled water base quality charge by 9%. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Annually, we come back to you with these kind of rate increase proposals. In this case, first item is water and sewer, and the next two items are also related to the rate increases, and we have three separate presentations. So for the first one, I would like to invite Gary Welling, the Acting Director of Water and Sewer, and it'll be potable water, recycled water, and then sanitary sewer rates.
Thank you. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of our water sales and supplies rates and long-term projections and recycled water rates, including a sewer overview and a summary of proposed rates. So city water supplies, our infrastructure is such that we have 335 miles of distribution mains, 7 storage tanks, 26 groundwater wells, a number of booster stations that pump that water around the city. We have 3 imported water connections, 2 with San Francisco Public Utilities Commission and 1 with the Santa Clara Valley Water District. We've got approximately 26,000 service connections in the city. Those are metered sites. If you look at the map on the right, you'll see a breakdown of where our water actually comes from. We import about 11.5% of our water from the San Francisco Public Utility Commission. That's Hetch Hetchy water. About 48.8% of our water comes from the local groundwater. It's 26 wells I mentioned, and then 22.6% of our other imported water comes from the Santa Clara Valley Water District in the south. About 17% of our total water supply is recycled water from South Bay municipal water. So let me move on to total potable water sales as a function of population. If you look at this chart during our last drought, 87 through 92, previous to the one we just went through, our lowest water use was about 7,000 million gallons. If you fast forward to 2016, we are looking at a population increase, but we are looking at lower water usage of about 5,000 million gallons. And that's important to note because as water sales have dropped due to the drought and the great job that citizens and businesses have done here in Santa Clara, revenues have also dropped. I'll just go over briefly the wholesale water rates and the increases for this year that are really pass-through costs that we receive from other agencies. So the first charge there is the increase of 9.6% from Santa Clara Valley Water District, and that's the groundwater charge. The second component is a treated water charge, that's surface water that also comes into the city. There's an 8.8%, so you can blend those two, around 9.2% increase. On the SFPUC side, the Hetch Hetchy water, there's no increase this year, actually a little bit of a reduction based on a BOSCA bond charge. And the recycled water through South Bay Water Recycling, that increase is 10.6% this year. So this is a chart, a graph that shows wholesale water costs and some of the increases. SFPUC, they are just finishing up a huge CIP program that's been going on for quite some time, actually. It was approved in 2002, and it's WISIP, it's called, Water Supply Infrastructure Program, so about $4.8 billion, and that's why we've seen such huge increases from SFPUC. They're going to flatline the next 3 years, but they're going to go back up again, about 10% 3 years onward after that. Also, the district is embarking on a huge CIP program of about $1.8 billion, and they've had a substantial increases in the last 3 years. They've increased their rates about 57%, and those are pass-through costs. Of all of the water we use, 86% of the potable water comes from the district, so it has a huge impact when they have increases. So this is a look at our water utility in Santa Clara, expenses and revenues. And I'll just take a note in 2015-16. You can see there we had our revenues were pretty decent and they dropped off considerable. And that had to do with conservation of about 20%. And cost of water went up about 20.8%, and the city itself, City of Santa Clara, raised their rates 9.5%. If you look at that shaded gradient going up on the top, that's the revenue curve or revenue line, and the bottom of that shaded area, it would be, it's a forecast if we were looking at a 1% increase in sales. In our model, we actually are using a 5%, which is the top of that grade. And as you can see, if we only see a 1% increase in sales, we're still, we're just about where or below where our operating expenses are. And if you look at those orange boxes, you can see the increase in the wholesale water costs for both SFPUC and the district. The other city operating costs are staying pretty much stable, along with capital costs. So revenues and reserves. If we look at the blue graded area or curve at the bottom, that's actually our reserves, where our reserves should be. So if we take 2016, 17, and 2017, 18, we should have reserves of about $18.5 to $20 million, based on a couple different scenarios, 50% of annual revenues or 50% of operating expenses for any given year. But within that range, if you look at 16, 17, we're below, we're about 14 million right now in reserves. And with with an increase this year, 17, 18 will still stay about the same. And then after that, we start to catch up. So the proposed water rates, the increase that we're proposing is 15% for potable water. That would increase the average user or average residential user of 12 HCF. That's 100 cubic feet of water, from $4.95 to $5.69. That's an increase of about $8.88 a month. Minimum charges will go up also, and that's just a function of if you use three units or less, you would pay a minimum of $14.30 per month. On the recycled water system, a little bit of information here. It's been in operation 27 years. We've got 33 miles of distribution pipeline in Santa Clara. It accounts for 17% of our total water sales. We see an increase in summer months of 24%. And we have irrigation, we have industrial applications, we have dual plumb facilities, and we're using it over in Rivermark for irrigation. So there's some homeowners associations too that utilize the recycled water. The proposed recycled water rates, we're looking at a 9% increase. That would be the base rate increase from $3.07 per 100 cubic feet, which is 748 gallons, to $3.35 per HCF. And then there's the minimum charges similar to potable water. On the sanitary sewer system, we have about 277 miles of sewer line, 8 sewer lift stations, and we discharge between 13 and 14 million gallons of sewage to the San Jose, Santa Clara Regional Wastewater Facility. We are part owners of that facility, about 17% worth. The sewer utility expenses, we've mentioned this in the infrastructure presentations. We are looking at about $100 million over the next 5 years. San Jose, Santa Clara Regional Wastewater Facility is undergoing a huge CIP program, about $1 billion in the next 10 years. And next year, we're looking at $26.5 million. But we have been planning for these increases in capital projects, and San Jose has budgeted certain projects that have been delayed, but those now, they've done a better job of budgeting those capital improvement projects. So we are actually not looking to raise sewer rates this year. So there's going to be a zero increase. We will use some capital reserves this year, but we're also going to look at commercial paper instead of putting that burden of all these huge CIP increases on the ratepayers. And then on the water and sewer rate comparison, we have Santa Clara's current charges in the first column. And the second column is what we're proposing, and then the comparison with what other cities are proposing. If you include San Jose's 5% utility tax, we are the lowest from those five, six cities that we have compared here, and this is an average water usage of 12 HCF. So the summary of the proposed rates, we're looking at a 15% increase for water. As I mentioned, it's an increase of $8.88 per month for the average residential customer. Recycled water base rate, an increase of 9%. It's an increase of 0.28 per HCF, and then no increase in sewer. The customer service information, residents needing assistance paying their utility bills can contact customer service number on the screen regarding Help Your Neighbor program. And then conserving water is another way to lower your bill, and we have the website up there also. I also have Mike Vasquez as the compliance manager here if there's any questions on water conservation. So the recommendation at the close of the public hearing, the protests are from the property owners are not a majority, is to adopt the approval of the water rate schedule and the recycled water rate schedule for 1718. And I'm here for any questions you might have.
Yes, I have a question here. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you. So thank you for the very informative presentation, Gary. So it's kind of like saying, though, even though we are using less water, we're having to pay more per glass of water because we have to buy it from somebody. We can't make it ourselves, right?
Correct.
And then we also have the incredible infrastructure that we have to maintain. So the water still has to go through all those pipes, even though hopefully we're all using less water. So, and those infrastructure costs have gone up.
Yes, the infrastructure, and that's a good point. We do have to maintain increase the infrastructure. We're in the process of replacing water main. Our water mains are getting older. Water tanks we're refurbishing. We also have to maintain fire suppression in the system. So there's a lot of work that's ongoing on the CIP schedule for water.
So I know nobody likes to pay a rate increase, but it's, I mean, there are reasons why this is happening. And I'm relieved to see that we're not having a sewer increase. And I think, as you were explaining about the sewage treatment plant that, Santa Clara, I think, was trying to do the right thing for a number of years by putting aside, and that's why we were raising rates to put aside. I mean, the treatment plant's going to cost as much money as the stadium. which I think, I tell people, to me, that sewage treatment plant is a lot more important than the stadium. But not to say the stadium's not important, but, so it's a huge, huge project that has been in the works for years. And so, I think it's great that we've been putting the money aside for a number of years. So now we can kind of give our ratepayers a break on the sewer rates, since we have the money in reserves to pay, as we go forward. And now I know Councilmember Davis and Colstad attend those meetings. I attended those meetings for about a year and could see the tremendous amount of work that has to be planned. It's kind of like a rebuild the plant in place instead of building a whole new plant. I was kind of interested to see that process.
Yeah, the plant's 60 years old, and most of the equipment is just, all of it has to be replaced.
Right. So, and with the recycled water, I think it's really commendable when I tell people that we're using over 15% recycled water. But once again, we buy that from the company that gets it from the treatment plant, correct?
Correct.
And
Yes.
and so, once again, unfortunately, nothing is free these days.
No, and as I mentioned, the district is spending $1 to $2 billion, they're projecting, for their CIP programs and the treatment plants, the dams, Anderson Dam, the seismic retrofitting, at least 3 or 4 dams, and there's huge numbers. So they're passing those costs through to, all of the retailers.
So the costs are coming to us in the actual water charges. It's not like they've gone out, we're not like all paying into a bond for those specific projects. We're paying for it in every cup of water that we drink.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I
Sure.
wanted to.
Thank you. Any other questions for Gary? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
City Manager, we're taking these one by one.
Yes, please, because the clerk has to read out
I
what
know.
the votes were. So.
It's a public hearing, so public hearing's open for this. Are there any public comments on this item A? On the water, please come forward.
I would like the city council to seriously consider adjusting the rates, because the rates that are being done are disproportionately penalizing those that use potable water. In his presentation, he said potable water has gone up 9.2% when he averaged it out, and much of that water is coming out of our own wells, which we as citizens are already owning and paying for. And he wants to charge us 15%. So we're paying a huge surcharge because we're using less water, and that's about 20% less water, which 17% of that is recycled. So I would like to see the rate for potable water get closer to the 9.2%. And if anybody should be charging the surcharge, it should be the recycled people, because they caused the problem, because we're using less water, and they're already paying a whole lot. Now, why the recycled water is only paying 9%, when the actual rate went up 10.6%, and I don't know why nobody up there catches these numbers, is amazing to me. Why are they getting a discount of 1.6%, and we're paying a surcharge above the 9.6% increase? So, plus, we paid something to paint a water tank so it looked pretty, without the citizens having a voice in that, too. So we have a department that's wasting our money. They're charging a surplus for using less water, and the people who use less water are paying less for the water and not being charged, and they're getting a bigger discount. So those that are using potable water should be charged a 9.2 increase. Those using recycled should be charged a 10.6 increase, and nobody should be paying a premium.
Thank you.
So would you please consider adjusting those to what reality is and stop making it a profit center? Thank you.
Any more other public comments before we get a motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah, hi, thanks again. Just a bit of a background. Obviously, the city of San Jose was dumping, I could be wrong, something like 8 billion gallons of water out of there. So obviously, this is a big treatment plant with a lot of moving parts. But I do hope that the city of Santa Clara, as a partner, can look in San Jose and make sure that they're giving you all the information that you need. Because I think you are pretty much aware that they lost a lot of their employees with a lot of their budget downturn that they had over the last decade. So they had to go outside and contract in. So my question or concern is, are they getting the right people on staff that they need to operate this more effectively? If there's a way that Santa Clara, as a partner with San Jose, can work to control the expenses a little bit better, then there was maybe a way to ameliorate the adjusted. I've also been here long enough to realize I grew up in the valley, as most of us have, that every time we save money on save water, we always get charged more. It just is what it is. That's why the Mercury News calls the water district the golden spigot. But if I can use this as a cautionary term, I'd also like, if we're talking to the water district, also we should get something for our money, and that is make sure the creeks in Santa Clara are cleaned up. They blamed, I think they allowed the water district, I know I'm off topic, they basically blamed the city of San Jose for the Coyote floods and not alerting people. I don't think that was fair. There was a 2006 study that said the vegetation in the creeks, Ramundo, I'm trying to think what that's called. It looks like bamboo. But basically, the vegetation in the creeks cut down the flow of the creeks by 40%. So if we're paying more for it, and if we can't control the expenses, at least have them do their job and make sure these creek trails are open, which I fund. But part of it's also make sure the creeks are cleaned as they should be, because certain shrubbery, et cetera, like this can only be removed from the creeks twice a year. I know, granted, how do I know this? But I'm a big creek trail advocate. So I think this is a way maybe to put, you'll approve this, I'm sure, but put their feet to the fire to say, do your job. Our job is not to do X, Y, and Z, but you, the water district, are. So please, how can we help you do your job so we have no more flooding and we can make sure you are running your plant as efficiently as possible? And for your water recharging that you want to do you really need to spend hundreds of millions for that as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments from the public? So procedurally, City Clerk, do we close the public hearing or do we talk to you first on this one?
Vice Mayor Caserta, first it's appropriate to find out if there are any final protests with regards to the rate increase, so I'll go through that process. I'll share for the public edification that the 218 election is actually done by an independent third party that's contracted by the water and sewer utilities. The protests are then collected by the city clerk's office, validated in partnership with the city clerk's office and the departments to make sure that none of those protests are missed, and that's being brought to you this evening. Any final protests have to be received by the close of the public hearing. So with that, I'll share that there are 26,589 potential protests or potential votes. It would require 13,297 to invalidate the increase. The city so far has received 61 protests. I'll call now to see if there are any additional protests to be received at this time. Seeing none, there were not adequate protests to overturn the rate increase. It's the pleasure of the council.
Thank you. Councilmember Kolstad.
Move to close the public hearing.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Okay, let's vote on that. And that passes unanimously, knowing that Mayor Gilmer stepped out for a moment. Thank you.
Move staff recommendation.
Second, please.
Second.
That passes unanimously, noticing the one abstention of Mayor Gilmore. Thank you. City Manager, 16B.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Caserta. The next item is about the solid waste, which is the garbage, refuse, clean, green, recycling, those type of items. And we have a very brief presentation from Dave Staub, the Deputy Director of Public Works, to talk about the proposals there.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. I'm here to talk about the proposed solid waste rates. The components for the solid waste program include garbage collection and disposal, clean green collection and processing, the residential recycling program, the annual cleanup campaign, and the household hazardous waste program. The reasons why we're coming to you today to increase the rates is we do have agreements in place with contractors that provide service, that the agreements contain cost of living adjustments. This coming fiscal year, there's a 3.2% cost of living adjustment for Mission Trail Waste Systems, which provides our exclusive franchise garbage, commercial recycling, commercial food scraps, and clean green collection. 3.5% estimated cost of living increase to Republic Services, which provides our landfill and composting services. And then a 3.5% increase to Recology, which provides our residential recycling program. We will also plan to implement a pilot single-family residential food scrap recycling program this year on 2 of the 8 residential collection routes. So what we've brought to you today is a resolution to adopt the overall solid waste rates that we're going to charge to customers. On April 7th, we sent out notices to 26,589 customers, or 91 customers. If approved, the rates will go into effect with the July 2017 billing cycle. This slide is just a summary of the current rates and the proposed rates and the impacts that they'll have on ratepayers for garbage. The percentage change of garbage rates will be 3.5% for a customer with a 32-gallon one-can service. That impact is 44 cents a month. No change is proposed to the monthly clean green rate. Recycling is proposed to increase 10 cents, which is a 3.7% change. We're not proposing any increases to the monthly cleanup campaign or household hazardous waste charges. For these 32-gallon customers, the net impact is 54 cents a month, which equates to a 1.7% change in their monthly utility bill. Other proposed monthly rate adjustments for commercial front-load bin service would go up 3.5%, as would drop body debris bin service. Extra charges for push-pull or extra service lockjam installs would also go up 3.5%. For customers with the 20-gallon Super Saver rate would be 70 cents per month. So that's a summary of our rates. Staff recommendation, at the close of the public hearing, the city clerk counts the protests of the property owners, and if not a majority, council may adopt the resolution setting the overall rates to be charged to customers for solid waste
Mayor, we're at the
services.
point if there's any questions of the colleagues, then to go to the public.
Okay, any questions from the council? All right, seeing none, any members of the public? I don't have any cards. Are there any cards, Rod? Okay, any members of the public on this issue?
I'm happy to see they're only charging the public the actual costs, and I'm very disappointed of this entire council for not sticking up for the citizens of Santa Clara and allowing the water department to charge us a surplus and not sticking up for the people of the city of Santa Clara and adjusting the water rates properly. I'm really disappointed and very disgusted with the fact that you're not sticking up for the citizens and how you didn't even have the courage to adjust the rates properly and giving a discount to the recycle people, and they're not even paying their fair share costs. So I hope the people watching tonight and listening are just as discouraged and take some appropriate action. Maybe it's time for that now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, city clerk?
Mayor Gilmore, as outlined earlier, this is the completion of the 218 election with regards to counting protests. For this particular item, there are 26,589 potential respondents. It would require 13,295 to overturn. Sorry, 13,200. 97 to overturn the potential increase. 56 were received. Are there any additional protests? Seeing none, there are not adequate protests to overturn the election
Thank you.
or the increase.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Colstad.
Move to close the public hearing.
Motion second to close the public hearing.
Move,
And that passes unanimously.
move staff recommendation.
Motion second, staff recommendation. And that passes unanimously. Next, we have the adoption of a resolution setting the rates for the storm drain environmental compliance fee effective with the July 2017 billing cycle, increasing the single-family dwelling rate to $1.70 a month for the first 4 dwelling units, plus 64 cents per month for each additional dwelling unit, and the commercial, industrial, and non-residential property rate to $23.30 per month per acre, with a minimum monthly charge of $1.70 per month. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, a brief presentation by Deputy Director Dave Staub on this item.
All right, hello again. All right. The storm drain environmental compliance fee funds our city's urban runoff pollution prevention program. Elements of our urban runoff pollution prevention program include new and redevelopment, design requirements, industrial, commercial, business, stormwater inspections, active construction site inspections, illegal discharge response, public education, water quality monitoring, and reducing trash loads and other pollutants entering into our waterways. So as the permit requirements keep getting more stringent, our costs keep going up. For instance, we're about to install 190 full trash capture devices. We now have to maintain these devices, and our maintenance costs keep going up. Additionally, the rate increases are going to, one of the positions you saw earlier today that was on the list of proposed positions is a code enforcement officer, which would be doing a lot of the industrial, commercial, business stormwater inspections, as well as new and redevelopment inspections and active construction site inspections. So more and more properties keep getting added to our inspection rolls. On April 7th, we sent out a notice of public hearing to 26,591 customers. If approved, these rates will also go into effect with the July 2017 billing cycle. This is a summary of the proposed rates for single-family homes, townhomes, complexes with up to four units. The current rate's $1.41 per month. The proposed rate would shift it to $1.70 per month. For multifamily rates, for multifamily complexes that consist of properties with 5 or more units, the current rate's $1.41 for the first 4 units and 53 cents a month for each additional unit. That would be shifting to $1.70 per month each for the first 4 units, plus 64 cents per month for each additional unit. And then for commercial, industrial, and other properties like schools, the current rate is $19.29 per month per acre, with a minimum fee of $1.41 per month. That would shift to $23.30 per month per acre, with a minimum fee of $1.70 per month if the rates were approved. That's the summary of the proposed slate of rates. At the close of the public hearing, the city clerk counts the protests of property owners. If not a majority, council may adopt the resolution.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dave. I have a question regarding the proposed monthly storm drain rates. For the multifamily rates, the increase is going to go to $1.70 a month for each of the first 4 units, plus 64 cents a month for each additional unit. How does that get averaged out, or is it averaged out over the homes, or does one person just pay 64 cents? How does that work out?
So typically, you're on a meter where there's a property management company or a property owner that's paying the whole bill for a complex, as opposed to each resident's paying for it. For instance, I guess the best equivalent I could give you is, say there's a shared garbage bin, a front load dumpster. It's usually a property management company that's paying the whole bill for the complex, as opposed to each unit paying their own bills.
I see. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? All right, members of the public? Thank you, Dave. Members of the public, please come forward. If you have any comments? Okay, seeing none. Councilmember Colstead?
Move to close the public hearing.
We'll need to complete
No,
this
we have
218
the
process.
vote first, and
Oh,
then
that's
we'll
right.
do that. Thanks.
Yes,
City Clerk?
with regards to 16C2 and the 218 election, there were a total potential number of respondents of 26,589. That will require 13,297 to overturn the rate increase. A total number of protests received was 52. Are there any additional protests? Seeing none, there are not adequate protests to overturn the increase.
Thank you. Now, Councilmember Colstead.
Move to close the public hearing.
Motion second, close the public hearing. That passes unanimously.
Move the
Councilmember
staff
Colston?
recommendation.
Motion second for staff recommendation, and that passes unanimously as well. Thank you all for all those reports and all the work. Appreciate it. Next, 17A, reports for action. Wow, it's a long item. Okay, approval of the 3 small generator interconnection agreements and 2 transmission facilities agreements with Pacific Gas and Electric Company that are completed and ready for execution. Approval of the expenditure of $45,425.82 total to exercise Silicon Valley Power's option to make an equivalent one-time payment for each of the 2 small generator interconnection agreements in lieu of making payments in perpetuity. Approval to execute the 2017 interconnection agreement and any related new transmission facilities agreements once negotiations and/or a hearing have concluded and Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has approved the 2017 interconnection agreement, subject to final review by the City Attorney's Office and authorization to execute any future amendments to the 2017 interconnection agreement, small generator interconnection agreement, and the transmission facilities agreements between Silicon Valley Power and Pacific Gas and Electric Company, subject to final review by the City Attorney's Office. City Manager?
Mayor, if you need a brief presentation, John Rockma, Director of SVP, is available, or we can answer questions. Your pleasure.
Council? Short presentation?
Okay, maybe for the public, we can have the director explain.
Yes.
Just
John,
so people
could you-
start to understand more.
It was a really
Yes.
long item, so it
Yes.
must be important, right? Welcome back, Director Rockama.
All right. And thank you very much. The main agreements that govern the interconnection between our utility in Santa Clara and PG&E is called the interconnection agreement. It's a master agreement. We've had one since 1983. This one, the recent one, was been in effect since 2002. It's been extended as we've talked to them over the last 5 years, trying to renegotiate this agreement. And it details not only the interconnection of our power system, it also has these sub-agreements that dictate the terms for interconnecting our generators at Stony Gorge, Black Butte, Highline Canal, and some of our transmission projects, like our 230 kV transmission project. It doesn't deliver any power to us. It doesn't provide transmission services. What it just does is it dictates the terms and conditions of interconnecting the 2 systems. So what we're doing is approving the generator interconnection agreements and the special facilities agreements for connecting these. And then the interconnection agreement itself, the master agreement, we did not come to resolution with PG&E. It terminates at the end of July. PG&E is going to unilaterally file that agreement with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. on June 1st. They have to do that 60 days ahead, and then we will file a protest on that. And so they'll file with their language, and we'll file the protest with our language, and then we'll let the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission approve it. So we're asking for approval of the 5 agreements we have agreed to, and then approval delegating to the city manager to execute the interconnection agreement if and when the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission decides on which way they're going to go there. So,
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions by the council? Thank you very much for that. Any public comment? Okay, seeing none. Council? Is there a motion? Councilmember Colstead?
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion second for staff recommendation. And that passes unanimously. All right, moving on. Next, we have Stadium Authority items. The first is to note and file the financial status report for the quarter and fiscal year ending March 31st, 2017. Executive Director.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. This is the last quarter financial status report. Now, most of these items have been included in the approved budget already, but we are supposed to report by the quarter, so this is the final completion of that quarter. Generally speaking, the revenue was higher by about $1,000 than anticipated, and the expenditures were about $200,000 less. We have a very brief presentation if you want one. Otherwise, this is
a item that
straightforward.
there's many people interested in, so
Sure.
I imagine we should have a presentation.
Okay, so
Thank
Angie
you.
Kretsch, Acting Director of Finance.
Thank you. Welcome back, Angie.
Thank you. So as the city manager mentioned, this covers the fiscal year, it's the fourth quarter. So it also has comparative data from 15-16 fiscal year. And the reports are available on the Stadium Authority webpage. In the report, it also says it's available on the finance webpage. And I actually received some feedback from a citizen saying that and I agreed with them, wouldn't it be more efficient to just have a link on the finance page to the Stadium Authority page? So we updated that, we agreed with them. There was a lag. If you looked at the Stadium Authority, we were keeping that up, but unfortunately the finance page was a little behind. So this way we only have to remember one page. And so even though the actual report says both websites, they'll get a link to tell them to go to the Stadium Authority webpage. So for the non-NFL events, there were 10 home games at Levi Stadium, 2 preseason games and 8 regular games. A total of about 656,000 tickets were sold. The 10% NFL ticket surcharge brought in $8.2 million during the year in support of the Stadium Authority operations. And the 35-cent per ticket senior and youth fee brought in $230,000, which was transferred to the general fund. On the NFL event public safety costs, the total of $3 million of stadium public safety costs were provided for NFL events. 217,000 of the public safety cost reimbursements were outstanding as of 5/22 or yesterday. This is just timing. You know, we get invoices later from not our public safety costs, but from other outside agencies. And then also, this would include the invoice that we just recently billed to the 49ers for, or to Management Co. for the double time from the January 1st game. So this is also in there. On the discretionary fund, the balance is currently $1.7 million, and this is funded by half of the non-NFL surcharge of $4 per ticket. I think I had explained this before during the budget process, but we're always a year behind. So when it says 16-17 and it shows expenses of $699,000, that is really for the public safety cost from 15-16. So we know now that based on what we preliminarily, that we will have another $1.2 million of NFL public safety cost that pertains to 16-17, but will be paid in 17-18. So even though we show a 1.7 balance, we're anticipating 1.2 of that will be paid from the discretionary fund. For non-NFL events, 18 ticketed non-NFL events were held during the fiscal year with a total of 582,000 tickets sold approximately. In addition, there were 126 smaller events, which had about 54,000 attendees. The $4 per ticket non-NFL ticket surcharge that I mentioned before generated $2.4 million, and that's one half for stadium operations and one half for the discretionary fund. For non-NFL event public safety costs, a total of $3.2 million of public safety services were provided for the non-NFL events. And again, there's outstanding invoices, 198,000 of the public safety cost reimbursements, and these are due to timing. On the stadium builder licenses, or SBLs, the value of the currently active SBLs is $538.7 million, and over 76% of the principal collected as of 3/31/17, which is really good. There were only 2,627 defaulted SBLs and 929 new SBLs sold. And we've kind of talked about this before, but if a SBL holder defaults, they do forfeit that money that they paid up to date, and then we sell those SBLs at the same value, and they can finance them up to 10 years the same way that when they originally went on sale. So on the operating revenues, as the city manager mentioned, we already presented this to you when we presented the budget, so we had an estimated column. We were almost right on. Like he mentioned, we were $1,000 off, so we came in $1,000 better. And then just wanted to point out these right here. This is I also pointed this out during the budget process, but the $6.1 million that we brought in for non-NFL events is used to calculate the performance rent, which is what is paid to the general fund. And then the non-NFL ticket surcharge of the $2.3 million is half of that is what goes into the discretionary fund. On the operating expenses, again, like the city manager mentioned, we actually came in less than what we had showed you previously, which is a good thing. So we were trying to be conservative when we prepared the budget, and we actually came in better. And these three line items here are what go into the general fund or paid to the general fund. So it's a total of $3.4 million that is paid to the city of Santa Clara. On the total outstanding debt as of March 31st, it was $429 or $430 million, and this is down from the peak of $676 million in 2014-15. So we are making great strides in getting this paid down. You can see that it decreased by $34.9 million. On the CIP, the 2016-17 adopted capital expenditure plan included $1.7 million in projected expenditures. To date, we spent $385,000. We completed the projects, which include the seat covers. I'm not sure if you have seen those, but they look really nice. Visitor locker room, carpeting, smoke evacuation system, and then the final fan walk installation. And we are also working on the LED and water treatment projects that are in progress. That concludes my report, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Vice Mayor Caserta?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Non-NFL events, are those down from the year before, and can you comment on why that is?
So from what I recall, I'm kind of thinking city operating, so I have to transfer myself to the Stadium Authority. Yes, those are down.
Is Manco here?
No.
No one from Manco's here?
No. So the stadium, yes, I believe that we even put in the report that it is down. I'm not sure if it was less events that were scheduled. I'm not sure of that. I know some of the special events, we had one large one last year, so that's why some of the revenue is down on that side of it. That's all the information I have.
City Manager, do you have any information on that, why there's less non-NFL events?
Vice Mayor, unfortunately, I don't. We can provide that to you.
Thank you.
Could you have a list of questions? Because I have quite a bit of questions to ask Manco to provide answers to, and that was one of my questions, but Teresa?
Actually, I did have at one point, did have a little conversation with Mr. Mercurio, the stadium manager, and he had told me that the first year or two, that they actually had more events than they were originally targeting, and that he didn't think that like the number of concerts that they had was probably going to be sustainable, and that he was anticipating that it was going to drop off. So I think it was a few less concerts this year. And actually, I think that they'd held, from what I remember him telling me, I think they had held at the small events fairly closely, but it was like some of the big, like, the first couple of years that we had a lot, quite a number of concerts and stuff.
Let's hope we can get that from him directly. Vice Mayor mentioned that in this report, it says the number of non-NFL special events went down 39%, while attendance at these events decreased by 48.9%. So we had 40% less events, and the attendance decreased by almost 50%. So if we could get information as to why that happened, that's a dramatic decrease in non-NFL events, which are the ones that are important to us.
And I don't mean to
yes.
interrupt, but those are the special events like weddings, receptions, if you look on that column. So I believe there was a large event held in 15-16 from a large company, and that wasn't held in 16-17. But we can verify that just to make sure.
Yeah.
We'll get you the.
Yeah, if you could get that information. Councilmember O'Neill, did you have some more questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, and then Vice Mayor Caserta.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So a couple things I was kind of noticing about the SBLs. So are we seeing, because I've kind of looked at the website a little bit too, are we seeing any upticks on the sales of the SBLs?
Yeah, this information is on 16-17, but from my last conversation with Manco, we are seeing an uptick because there's some excitement being generated with the team, and so people are actually purchasing more of these.
So there were ones that were out there on the marketplace, and so now we're getting some sales. And so I suppose if people keep turning over or turning in their season tickets and then get a new SBL, that's just a chance for us to make more money. If those churn, actually, that may be to our advantage, maybe not for the fans' advantage, but for our advantage, because we'll get the full revenue again, right, on the SBL.
Yeah, and I think that was a question that came up during the budget process, and we had calculated approximately $9 million that we had already received, and then those were defaulted, and now we're reselling them at full value. So.
Okay, great. That's all I have for right now. Let me think.
I had a question. Are people financing those new SBLs because it's at 8.5%?
Yeah.
Are people really doing that?
They
at
are.
full value?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a question about the public safety. So the threshold for public safety, is it up to about $1.8 million for NFL games? And so our costs for public safety are now $3 million, so we're $1.2 million. It said, I think, close to 25% increase in public safety costs from last year to this year. Now, people probably watch television like I do to see that the stadium, the attendance, maybe the ticket sales are up there because people are forced to buy their tickets with the SBLs, but the attendance wasn't quite there. So what is the reason for 25% increase in public safety costs?
So
Maybe we'll ask Chief, can you guess at that?
Not guess.
Well, to be honest, I'm not prepared to answer that question tonight without doing research, but I do know that there has been some significant pay increases throughout the county. Some of the other agencies that we use with CHP and Sheriff's Office. In addition, with some of the activity that's been going on in the country, there has been some security measure changes that has been taking place, but I'd be more than happy to follow up next council meeting or whenever the next. and
Maybe we can
have a
get that
better
from
answer.
Manco also. The specifics for the 25% increase, that's a huge increase in public safety costs. So I'd like to get, along with the other question, the specifics of the public safety cost increase from one year to the next. Because if they're increasing at that rate, wow, we really need to know that. And so much is over the threshold that I'm not sure the discretionary fund's going to be able to handle this as the years go on.
Mayor, however, the discussions on that item have begun, because after the third season, we can reopen.
I know we've had one meeting on that, but I don't know when the next meeting is on that, so. Thank you. So if we can get that information, Authority Member Davis. Did you have more?
Some questions for Manco. The stadium manager expenses, can we get another breakdown on that one? Because that's like 10 million.
What?
The stadium manager.
10.3 million?
Oh.
Which
an
is
operating
not the
expense?
fee, by the way.
What
Fee
is what is their fee?
The manager fee is separate, which is about 211,000 or something. Angie?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to put my glasses on.
Well, it's another question, so.
There's a
why-
base fee and then there's a
Yeah.
commission, so what are they both together?
What is the, if
Ma-
you do,
The management fee was about 260,000. The rest of the expenses are things that we share, such as groundskeeping, landscaping, the actual expense for their employees. I think we kind of broke it down for you in the budget, but we could present that in this same format.
yeah, can I have another, yeah, because you know I
There's-
love those boxes. Thank you.
There's a commission fee on top of the base fee.
It comes, out of the proceeds of the non.
Millions.
Well, that's some of what we're still waiting to get from the audit.
She may, well, let's get that. Stadium Authority Attorney.
Well, there's a paragraph on page 24 of the report that talks about the stadium management fee,
5 million and.
which says the fee was 400,000 in the first lease year and increases by 3% annually. And then the annual base management fee is split 50-50 between Stadco and the Stadium Authority.
Yeah, that's
And
the
then it says,
260.
and then it says that the last sentence says, the marketing and booking fee benchmark was 5 million in the first lease year and also increases by 3% annually. So that's part of the, it sounds like that's part of, in addition to the base management fee, the stadium manager also receives a stadium marketing and booking fee incentive fee, which is based on a percentage of the amount that the net income from non-NFL events exceeds the marketing and booking fee benchmark.
Right, so that's some of those,
So
the actual
do we
numbers
not
are the
know
ones
that
we're trying to
number?
get.
No, we do. So if you look on, it's not a big number. So if you look at the management fee, what we budgeted is 212,000, which is the base. And then we paid them 260. So what that is the 5 million that, for the non-NFL events. If they bring in more than that 5 million target, and I think that goes up also. I'm not sure how much it is for 16, 17, but I could check on that. It's a little more than 5 million, but if they bring in more than that, they get a certain percentage on that difference. So it's not a huge number. Now, if they brought.
What is the number?
So if they were supposed to bring in, we were supposed to pay them 212 and we paid them 260, so it's what, 50, less than 50,000 that we paid them.
Can we verify that? Thank you. Including with the other questions. Authority Member O'Neill.
Oh, thank you. So I just want to, so the only source we have for the discretionary fund is the surcharge. Is that correct, on the tickets?
That's correct.
Yeah, because, I think we're still going to have to, sort out all the public safety things, because I still don't remember that originally that was going to be a source, we got to find a stable way to fund the public safety costs. And it seems like we just keep I just didn't think that that's what the discretionary fund was going to be used completely for at that point. So, there's the potential, the issue has been raised, and I don't know, what everybody thinks about, because we have our surcharge, the thought has been brought forward, and it's going to be brought forward to some ideas to the VTA about us imposing a surcharge to cover more of the transportation costs, like a dollar surcharge or something like that, so that we might want to keep that in our thinking. If we're going to continue to, if we're going to, like I said, the issue's going to be coming to a head in the next couple of months with the VTA board. And it's not just for Levi Stadium, it's going to be for Avaya. And actually, apparently, they don't have to provide much extra transportation for the Shark Tank. But, so we just might want to keep that in mind, and I don't know, we would have the authority, the Steam Authority Board to impose that surcharge ourselves without any other?
As I said last time, I think there are different ways of dealing with how do we pay for that. But the initial question is, do we pay for it, and what do we pay for? I just wanted to let the council know that I received a phone call from the general counsel for the VTA inviting myself and hopefully someone from our staff, as well as folks from Manco to come to a discussion of that exact issue of the impending policy by the VTA to impose a transportation charge on special services for stadium and other big events at the Sharks and Avaya. So I intend on taking up the invitation to find out what their thinking is and what they would want to do. I have not heard whether VTA is going to be inviting the Manco, but I've also received an invitation from Manco's general counsel to go to a meeting on non-NFL event issues following the receipt of our notice of violation.
Okay, well, thank you.
Madam Chair, yeah, just a further comment on that. Yes, staff is always willing to meet with VTA staff, but ultimately, obviously, it's a policy decision. And also, I want to point out, yes, I'm not saying yes, put the surcharge or not. However, whatever we pay VTA will come out of our own bottom line for NFL events. So we need to consider all that at the end of the day.
From non-NFL.
Non-NFL.
Well, if we put a surcharge?
Yeah, if you put a surcharge, wouldn't it be for both NFL and non-NFL events?
Well,
they all use VTA.
Yeah, for NFL, yes, it will, but not, if you can put surcharge, yes, that will be an extra funding, but it needs to be also consistent. You need to consider why would we do only for Levi's and while SAP and Avaya Stadium are being provided
Oh,
service
no, it
without
should be
charge.
uniform across the whole
Exactly,
county.
that's the point I'm
For any
trying to make.
special events, for any venue.
Thank you.
Right, or whether we do it or whether, I think we could look at that, because I understand that they did end up with like over 6,500 riders of the light rail that night.
So I'm just trying to understand, so the surcharge would actually be charged to management code, correct? Is that what we're saying?
Well, no,
Not
the ticket buyers. And,
Okay, okay.
and another idea has come up about putting it on the surcharge on parking. Because kind of like, so then it encourages people to take transit if they have to pay the surcharge on, that idea was floated out to me as a more ecologically good way to do it.
The other part that I was informed was that the VTA was going to be was considering adopting a policy on I think it was around June 1st. So the purpose of the meeting was to kind of meet with us as a potential stakeholder as well as Manco about this policy. So what we're trying to do is work this out and figure out what would this charge be if they're going to start charging this. And then I think once we know what VTA is thinking about doing, we would bring it back to the Stadium Authority Board for how you might want to deal with the charge, whether we would agree to pay it, whether we would ask Manco to pay it. It could be something as simple as they just build it into their expenses for a non-NFL event, and they just know that the event holder will have to pay that, or they'll have to get enough revenue out of the event to pay that charge, and you might not have to do it as a specific charge to a ticket. So there's a bunch of different possibilities. They may try to refuse to pay it. I don't know this is all a work in progress.
Right.
The idea is that the VTA, us, and Manco sit down and discuss this and see what all the ins and outs of this are. I don't know if VTA has reached out to them yet or not.
Okay, great.
So on that note, I just want to say that if it's charged to the event, that will lower the non-NFL revenues that the Stadium Authority receives, which will then lower what goes to the city's general fund. I just want to make sure
Sure.
that, so it would lower the performance rent that's paid, because that's based on that net
Maybe the
number.
discretionary fund can pay it. Authority Member Watanabe, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. Angie, you were talking about parking, but I've gone through here and I don't see any breakout on parking. Was there any revenue from parking?
In the presentation or in the report?
In the presentation, please.
It's in the report. I didn't include it on the presentation. Let me find it. So it's on each one of the pages talking about the events. Did you have a specific, you just wanted to know how many?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, please. Yeah.
So for the NFL side, let's see, 355,000 was in parking fees. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, let me move up a little bit. The increase, let's see, resulted in an increase in number of cars parked due to the golf course being, no longer being used, and we had 10,574 cars parked in those lots. The off-site parking generated 355,000, and let's see, the Tasman lot parking fee generated 26,000, and this is just the NFL events. So on the non-NFL event side, let's see, the city earned 314,000 on the on-site parking fees, and there was, I guess, a short time when we were using the golf course, so there was 48,000 also. So those are on page 3 and 6 of the actual report.
Okay, great, thank you.
Authority Member O'Neill.
Thank you. I was going to ask you a little bit more about the golf course parking. So are we looking at it, when we look at it, because I was looking at the report, and you could kind of see the numbers shift over from one column to the next. Are we thinking that, that long-term, or as we go through, that really not using the golf course is not really going to have that much impact, except that because everybody's just being accommodated, is driving a car is being accommodated on surface lots or in the garage, even though we don't get as much money. I don't think from that, or that's yet to be determined, but so there's kind of almost like not much impact of the golf course going away for parking.
That's correct.
That's what we've been advised
It's
by
just
Manco.
shifting.
I would imagine when they have football games and the football stadium is filled with people, that then and only then will we see the true impact of what we need for parking. We haven't had that all last season, and we've had very few events that have filled the stadium. Even the last concert was only 50,000. So I think once we see an event, an example might be the soccer game that's coming up in July. That will more than fill the stadium.
That's a great point, yeah. We will need to
So
look at that.
then we'll see what it's like to not have the golf course. It's on a weekend, so it will be a little different. We'll have more availability with parking, but most of the football games are on weekends too. So we really don't know. They haven't really filled the stadium since they took away since they stopped using the golf course. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
And they're using Mission College for the employee parking?
Yes.
So, and at least it sounds like maybe that we can use the Yahoo/Lay Echo property for a while longer, from what I'm reading in the financial pages.
Yeah, it may not be long-term, but they're restructuring, as you read today. Yes. So, yeah, we'll see. we'll see what happens with that.
So we're looking at parking revenue should be steady.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions from the authority board? If not, thank you very much. Let's go to the public and then make sure the executive director has our questions. If you can bring them back for the next council meeting, Stadium Authority Board meeting in June. Members of the public, I don't have any cards, so Rod, do you have any cards? Thank you, please come forward.
I guess the first question is, why is Manco not here? I think that's kind of interesting. Has the city reviewed the parking plan, that there's adequate parking available to authorize them to do any weeknight events? That's one of the conditions in their agreement. And in light of the feedback that's been all over the media on the U2 concert, it evidently was hugely a flop when it came to the reputation of our stadium. So part of my overall concern is we're stuck with Godzilla's toilet bowl out there, as the neighbors call it. But I really question the dedication of making sure that our guests for non-NFL events have a good experience so they come back again. So I don't know what the incentive is to do a good job. If there's not good parking, they already kind of flipped us the bird about the curfew, and you guys are really foolish if you don't do something. The $1,000 is just a laughing stock of everybody. It's like, man, all you got to do is sell some hot dogs and you get that money back. I mean, that's just a joke. They ran out of food. They opened security late. I mean, the people that went there said if the band wasn't good, they thought they'd have a riot. So what is the incentive for them doing a good job on our events? Because basically, he's not here today. It's like they just keep flipping us off every time we turn around. So we're developing a reputation of Levi's being the place not to go for any events. And considering we need that money to pay for all the extra cops and everything else surrounding it, we really need to look at what our correction program is to making sure we're well represented.
Thank you, Deb.
So we have a real problem we need to work on. Thank you.
We're spending a lot of time, aren't we? I guess I can't say Judy, Jack and Jill. I don't know. I need to come up with another analogy. So as Howard discussed last time, the kids were going to party, and we found out that the kids were going to party too late, and do we stop the party or send a letter? We're going through a lot of motions to try to make sure that the 49ers and the Levi Stadium Management Company and Stadco are going along with what was contractually obligated, what was in the EIRs, what's in the team op, what's not in the team op. This is like, how more dysfunctional is this relationship going to get? I'd like to thank our finance person to come in here. We are, once again, as I mentioned to a couple city council people, I feel like you guys are like a MASH hospital and you are triaging what has happened the last number of years. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel like maybe I should just talk here and just say thank you 60,000 times. Because if it's not for you all spending an inordinate amount of time, we can't get to the bottom of this. But I think this is 60,000 leagues under the sea. I don't know what we don't know, and none of you do. I still think the public needs to be mad that they're telling you that you have to go in there and look at the documentation and not bring it back to the city hall. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And just a point of clarification, 37 events is what they promised. That was the expectation. The fact that it's a lot less, that's bollocks once again. I love Jim. He's got more bravado than anybody I know, but my bullshit meter goes off with everything he says. I'm sorry. I've been trying to be polite about this. I mean, I have not had any function with him where he has said what he was going to do and followed up. And that is what we're having with Levi Stadium and Manco. And we need to call it what it is. We need to document the heck out of it, because I think at some point when a divorce is going to happen, and it has to happen. But maybe it can't, because the legal contractual obligation by our previous city attorney may have been so dysfunctional, we can't do it. So then what do we do?
Thank you, Scott. Anyone else? Tom?
Hassan Haggag here. I'm not really in the mood to speak too long. But I just would like to ask that the council, because you have a lot of pressing questions that need answers, not approve the note and file of the report until you have answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Authority Board?
Could I have
Move to note and file.
Councilmember O'Neill? Authority Member?
We're hoping there's a preliminary report that's going to be coming from the Harvey Rosen Company that we're hoping, I think a lot of us feel like, okay, we're still stuck in the same place because, there's gaps in our knowledge. I know it's supposed to be coming soon. Do we have a timetable where that report might be coming so that staff, the authority, board, the audit committee, and ultimately the public will be seeing that information fairly soon? It's been months.
Board Member O'Neill, it was supposed to be here last week, and it being, as I've mentioned previously, the current audit has been divided into two phases, Phase 1A and B. 1A is relative to the city procedures and processes. So that was supposed to be here last week, but I just got an email from Mr. Brousseau from Harvey Rose that it should be here this week. He didn't say specifically which day. And then Phase 1B obviously cannot be completed because information has not been provided to them.
Well, I thought they were going to at least summarize the information that, I understand there's the internal process part for the city, which I know we've already implemented changes, but I thought there
No,
was
his
some level of
report
data
on that
collection
piece, his report on that piece is supposed to be here this week.
Okay,
That's
but
what he
I
told
thought
me.
he was also going to report on the data that he was able to collect.
Yes, he is reporting on the data they were able to collect from the city. The 49ers have not submitted the material needed to complete the second half of
Right, okay,
the
yeah.
audit. So it should be coming
Yeah,
in
so
soon.
Phase 1A, the data that
It's not
we
just
have.
process, it is some financial
No,
data.
there's some financial, we're hoping. Yes.
Yes, there's financial too from our
Yes.
side, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this week?
That's what he has said in his email to me, so.
Okay, so do we have a sense of then how soon would that go to the audit committee, Mayor, or would it go to?
Should go to the audit committee directly, yes.
And then it would be made public fairly soon, or what is?
I don't
that-
know
is
the
that considered
process
a-
of,
is
I
that-
think a draft comes first.
First would be a draft.
Typically, there's a draft, and then there's comment on the draft, and then the auditor receives the comment on the draft, and then they will make it public.
Pretty short turnaround,
It
probably.
should be on the draft. It's usually a very short turnaround.
So hopefully we'll have some more information for the public within a
That's
few
what
weeks,
we're paying
2 or
them
3 weeks.
to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, I understand the frustration of the public, and I think we've been here for the last couple of years, so I'll second the motion to note and file, noting that we should be getting the Harvey Rose report within the next week or so.
Could you please add the questions that we asked, that they also be returned on June 6th? Part of the motion? Authority Member Colson? Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay, motion second to note and file with that additional information coming June 6th, then in anticipation of the Harvey Rose audit. All right, lights on the motion, and that passes unanimously. Next item we have is approval of the first amendment to the SBL website marketing agreement with STR Marketplace, extending the term 5 years to May 31st, 2022, with a minimum annual payment of $325,000 and authorization for the executive director to make minor amendments to the agreement in consultation with the authority general counsel.
So, Madam Chair, Stadium Authority uses STR Marketplace to market these SBLs. So far, they've done a good job, and they are sort of not the only game in town, but most familiar with this, and they are very familiar with our SBL process, so that's why staff is making this recommendation. We have a brief overview that Ruth Shikara, our Assistant City Manager, can provide, or we can answer your questions.
Okay, probably the interest in this, we should have the brief report. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Authority Board. Ruth Shikata, Assistant City Manager. When we were talking about the financial report, we were discussing the SPLs. The SPLs was an important part of the overall stadium financing. And when the SPL program is complete, we anticipate about $500 million worth of revenue to come in to pay for the stadium construction. When we were discussing the financial report, and their questions came up from the Authority Board about SBLs that were defaulted, turned back in, and then resold, that activity is done by Management Co. What the STR agreement is about the secondary marketplace. So those people that have paid for their SBLs or that are current with their SBLs but wish to sell them in the private marketplace. So for example, if you have an SBL, you anticipate you're going to be here, but you got relocated. So no longer are you interested in buying season tickets to the 49ers because you're no longer living in the area. But you don't want to turn them back in. You want to try and sell your license agreement to somebody else, so that you would then go to the STR marketplace site and you would post them for sale. And then hopefully that there would be then a willing buyer willing to transact that sale. So that the STR marketplace creates a safe environment for those people to have those transactions, similar to like an escrow. And they work with Management Co. because those people that own or have SBLs are able to buy season tickets to the 49ers. So there needs to be some kind of coordination there. You can't sell your SBL to somebody else and expect to have access to season tickets unless the 49ers know who you are. So that there is an option as well where people can sell them privately, so they don't have to go through STR. Because if you post your SBL on STR and you find a buyer out there, then each party pays a 10% commission. If there is a private sale, so you're selling you're transferring your SBL to your friend, you can do that without STR, but you still need to pay a 5% commission, and there's a minimum amount. So this agreement provides the Stadium Authority with, let me back up. So far that there's been about $220 million worth of SBL sales that have run through STR. And that we have received, close to $800,000 the first year of the contract, and the second year of the contract, we received about $570,000. And it's all revenue to the Stadium Authority. So what this contract would do is allow for a 5-year extension of that. There aren't that many companies out there that work with the NFL teams to have this secondary marketplace. And as the manager was saying, that we are not really involved in the day-to-day management of the SBL agreements nor the season tickets. So it was an existing relationship that's working well, that's providing income to the Stadium Authority. So that's why we're recommending it.
Authority Member O'Neill.
Thank you. So it's 50, we get a 50% of their cut. From reading the staff report, I was a little surprised, agreed to pay Stadium Authority fee equal to 50% of commissions earned.
That's correct.
Wow, that's pretty hefty. And so I was kind of surprised that the number was as big as it was. But I was looking on the Levi Stadium website, and there's you can go through the drop downs and you can sell. So is this company, like when you go to Levi Stadium and it's like tickets and you can drop down and there's a choice for SBL and then it pops up, like a map of the stadium and shows, is that them behind the scenes, or is that like only the ones that have defaulted to, I was just curious, is this some other portal, because I know that there's as you mentioned, there are other companies that do something similar. I was just surprised if this is the behind the scenes of what you see when you go to the levistadium.com website.
So I haven't looked through that to take a specific look on it, and but the reason why we're getting a commission as the way we are, because they want to be able to use they get rights to use the trademarks, and so that there is that relationship there. So I didn't look to see, exactly which SBLs were for sale and to try and discern which ones might be on the private marketplace and which might be
Yeah, because like when you
left over.
drop down and you click, it still shows levistadium.com, but it's got a bunch of other stuff, so I mean, it could be connecting to something else. I was just curious if the use of the trademarks was part of that, was being directly connected to the Levi Stadium website.
Councilmember, can we add that to our list
Sure.
of questions to
Yes,
bring back
that
on the
would be
6th?
interesting to know,
Okay.
yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ruth. Any questions from the board? Seeing none from the audience?
Hassan Hagag here. I'm going to keep my comments brief again. I'm on the website. It's levistadium.stmarketplace.com. With the kind of fees that they're charging, I'd expect a much more functional website. I'd encourage you all in the next couple minutes to try and access and scroll through. The second thing is whether or not the city or the stadium authority has followed some sort of an open bidding process. I know this may not require an open bidding process, but competition is always good, as we know in the valley here, and we may end up getting a better cut, a better deal, and a better quality website that may further entice SBL holders to, interested parties in purchasing an SBL to purchase SBL. So I would like to see kind of the city council or the stadium authority require an open bidding process so that we get the best. Again, maybe ST Marketplace, is the best one. I don't know, but we should allow for an open bidding on that. And then, as we've seen with the other contracts that the management company has with some of their other, vendors or contractors, I think 5 years is too long of a contract for us to assign for any sort of vendor. Probably 2 years is a better number. Thank you.
Thanks.
I am very, very suspicious of who SDR Marketplace is. Is this a rebranding of Guido again?
Yes. I don't think so. He used to work for Jerry, what's his name, Jerry Jones? It's Legends or
Legends, yeah.
something. It's a different
Well,
company.
I can't find out who this company is. And all it's connected to is Levi Stadium when I do a search. So is this 49ers with yet another hat on and digging into another one of our pockets? And I think we're making a serious mistake if we enter into a 5-year agreement with a company, especially in light of if we ever hire our own stadium manager. I'd hate to see us tying their hands with somebody that perhaps they don't like or would like to choose their own person or would do it themselves or something. So please let's not enter into a 5-year agreement with
There's
a
an
company.
option to end after the third year.
Well, it's still a long time. And have we competitively bid this too? The fact I can't find out any information about who these people are and the only thing they're tied to is Levi Stadium. I just, and they're based in Houston, Texas. I just am very suspicious of us getting it in the end zone once again. Seems like we get caught in a lot of these and a lot of homework hasn't been done, so how did we find these people? what kind of search was done? Did they come to us? Did we go to them? How did we find them? Could we get some more information about how did they even come onto the radar? You know, you're talking about 3 years, 5 years. What if they're a nightmare? We have a nightmare right now. We didn't even make it to 3 years.
Thank you,
Thank
Deb.
you.
Honestly, I thought it was going to be gone an hour ago. I'm confused once again. So here we are, public entity, and we're guessing at things, and things aren't publicly known. Do a 2-year contract, but have it go out to bid first. Have multiple year extensions. Why are we doing things? Aren't there normal procedures that we used to have in Santa Clara? Can we revisit those procedures used to be? Why is there always one-offs that happen to be for the 49ers or certain developers? You know, we really need to stick to the letter of the law. I mean, or is someone going to sue us because we didn't do the right vetting and going out to public bid? Can we have the high school do a better? I'm sure the high schoolers, middle schoolers can do a better job with this website. And yes, it was Legends, but I mean, why do we have to guess what the information is? Why can't there be more information than we need and we have to struggle going through this information? You know, and I don't know if I'll have the sanity to go for the grand jury investigation, so maybe I'll say something about VTA. We need to understand that VTA, when you have a meeting with VTA, we need a separate meeting with VTA to make sure that they're going to properly fund Caltrain. Because when we start thinking about all these issues, they're all interrelated. We have to make sure VTA gets money, but so does Caltrain. Oh, by the way, the VTA board, Measure B, promised that they would fund Caltrain. Well, guess what? They're not. And they're scrambling to come up with fees, which is a triple whammy. So now Samtrans and San Francisco MTA cannot fund Caltrain. Now, I know that's another issue, but it's a cautionary tale. What other Pandora's box are we opening on June 6th? It seems like every time we run into all these issues, what's the Pandora's box? Did we follow the procedures? If we followed the right procedures that the Santa Clara is used to doing, great. But if we didn't, let's not shortcut it. Thanks.
Thank you. Question, Authority Director, do the 49ers have a financial interest in this STR marketplace? Do you know?
I don't know at this point. No, we can bring back the answer. Hopefully not.
The answer is no, they don't have a financial interest in this. The SBLs are stadium authorities. They're licenses that the stadium authority sold.
I know what SBLs are. I'm just wondering.
Saying, so that's why that they have no financial interest in this, other than that our SBL holders are then have the ability to buy season tickets from the 49ers.
Maybe you didn't understand my question. I wanted to know about the company STR Marketplace. Do they have, do the 49ers have a
That's the answer.
financial?
We don't know today.
Okay,
but
can
we'll
you
have
get
to-
that information? Should we continue this or approve it subject to
Well,
knowing that
unfortunately,
they
the
have no financial interest?
Previous
conditioned
agreement
upon-
expires at the end of this month. That's why we,
Again, last minute. I'm fine approving it, but I just want to make sure they don't have a financial interest in this.
I just want to point out, the staff report does say that it says STR has been operating online seat license marketplace for more than 9 years and has processed more than $220 million in transfers. They represent numerous organizations across the NFL and MLB, including the Carolina Panthers, Tennessee Titans, Baltimore Ravens, Chicago Bears, Cincinnati Bengals, Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, a lot of teams, thank you.
I did not get the impression that the 49ers own this company or have a financial.
That's fine. It was just a question that came up. I want to definitively say to our public, they don't have an interest and it's okay. So just find that out. We'll approve it. We can always reconsider it if it turns out to be the other way, so. Okay, is there a motion to approve this? Authority Member Colstead?
Let's do it exactly the way you've phrased it, that we would approve it subject to determining that STR is not part of the Stadco or Management Co. Companies.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. A motion second. Lights on the motion.
Get an answer about the bidding.
Okay, ask, I don't know what you're talking about. so.
It describes the advantages. Was there an RFP?
No, there was no RFP.
All right, motion second, lights on the motion, and that passes unanimously. Next, we have the approval of the request to pay retroactive double time to specific bargaining unit full-time city employees and to pay time and one-half to as-needed per diem special event police officers and traffic control officers who worked the January 1st, 2017 football game.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Back in March, we brought you this item for just the police officers, city police officers who worked the event on January 1st, and that cost was roughly $30,000 plus, and 49ers had agreed to pay that. At that point, we had also brought up the issue about other employees who worked the same game also as an overtime, and that for equity purposes, those employees should also be paid. So this is what that report indicates that, and there are different units involved in this, and the total cost is about $41,000, and even this cost has been agreed to be paid for by the 49ers. So
That's 41,000 plus the 30
plus
or
the
40,000
So
from
roughly
before.
70 to 75,000 total that the 49ers have committed to pay for the January 1st event.
Okay, that's great, and it's 49er money not coming from
Not coming from the stadium authority.
in any way, shape, or fashion for the record.
That's correct.
Okay.
Those-
Vice, what are we? Oh, Vice Authority Member.
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair Authority Member Caserta.
This is
Thank
the
you.
right thing to do from a morale perspective, and I appreciate the clarification, so I want to make a motion to approve the request.
So there's a motion to approve and a second. Any member of the public, please come forward.
Hassan Hagag here. I'm excited that our men and women in the police force are going to finally be compensated for this. But earlier in the agenda, there was the item where the police department received a $30,000 grant for the outreach and the community survey. And if you looked at the certified as to availability of funds line items, which I asked about and you guys very much answered, that it showed that the city was paid the $30,000 incoming into a city account. And then it also showed an additional line item that would show the $30,000 being paid out to the contractor of the same amount. On this staff report, I see the certified as to availability of funds of us paying out, but I don't see the incoming funds from the 49ers to reimburse. So I know they verbally promised. I know Jed York also verbally promised soccer stadium, soccer fields for the soccer community in a verbal promise. So I don't trust their verbal promises any farther than I can throw them. So I would, again, very much like to see our men and women in the police force be paid for their time, and for that to happen as expeditiously as possible. I mean, we're already in May, almost June, and this was back in January 1st. So they need to be paid as soon as possible. But I don't trust a verbal commitment from the 49ers. I want to see the money in our accounts before we pay it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good point. Stadium Executive Director, have the police officers been paid?
I believe we've invoiced, right, for the police officers. So, yeah, so this, as opposed to the grant funding.
Oh, I understand what this is for, but the previous action we
So
took, have they
they've
been?
invoiced, the money may not have come our way yet.
The officers were paid.
By who? Have we been paid by the 49ers?
No, but it's not late yet.
Okay, so can we have a condition that this isn't paid till we get the check for both of them? Okay, Very good point. Thank you, Hassan. Yes.
Oh, God. Man, I hope we get our house in order someday soon. This is the biggest CF I could ever see in my entire life. And it just keeps going. It'd be funny if it wasn't serious. Did they ever make us whole on the golf course? Did we ever find out if they ever paid that fine too? I mean, we got so much money dangling out there. It'd be nice. We must be printing it somewhere. I don't know how we do this. I'm happy to see people finally get paid. I think they should pay it, and we should not put a dime out because I don't think we're ever going to see the money from them. And the bottom line is, what have we done so we don't go through this hell again? Have we fixed the core problem? We have incompetence running everywhere. We have another contract that comes in at the last minute again, and we don't seem to fix the problems. When are we going to be proactive and fix the root problems? If it's firing people, start firing them. If it's writing contracts, start writing them. If it's suing people, we got to do something so we're not constantly just the laughing stock of how the Keystone cops run nothing. I mean, when you find a problem, you solve the problem, but you got to solve the root cause. So, great, we're going to pay them. But what's preventing us from going through this again in a few months? By this time, I think it's Christmas, or maybe it's New Year's Eve this time. Or maybe we tell them you can't have it on that day. When are we going to take things by the family jewels and own it instead of us being the ones who are being told, we own the stadium, we need to take control?
Thank you.
When's
Thank
that
you,
going to
Deb.
happen? Thank you.
All right. Could the motion include the information that we don't pay until the 49ers give us a check? All right, yes. The motion agreed to that. I don't know,
I was
who's
the
second?
second.
Second, agree? Yes.
The officers have been paid. We've invoiced the 49ers. We have not received the money back.
put up the money,
But
they're
there's
supposed to
a
pay it
verbal commitment from the 49ers to pay.
Okay, let's make that verbal commitment into a check. So, check comes in, money goes out. Okay, that's the motion. And the second's okay. Lights on the motion. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, next we have the informational report, response to the Santa Clara County Grand Jury regarding the Levi Stadium and Measure J. Thank you for rewriting that. I'm fine with it. Vice Chair
sorry.
Caserta.
Oh, I thought it was me.
Does anyone have a comment or a motion to put on the floor? Motion for approval of this. Is there a second? Motion second. Any member of the public? Okay. No comments. Lights on the motion. And that passes unanimously. All right. Reports of members and special committees. Anyone like to make a report? Councilmember Colston?
Yeah, Mayor, real briefly, May 17th, the MSR Energy Agency and Public Power Agency had a board meeting. They completed an audit of the agency books, found a unqualified opinion, no problems, no mistakes in the bookkeeping, and they refinanced 3 series of bonds, which will result in a substantial interest savings to MSR, of which you own, I think, 25%.
Very good. Thank you for that. Councilmember Davis?
Just for agenda purposes, are we going to have Stadium Authority monthly meetings? I asked about that a while ago. Did we get anywhere with that? Separate meetings from council, Stadium Authority meetings, monthly meetings? I asked for that a while ago.
Your staff's decision, I guess either the governance committee or the Stadium Authority could direct staff to do that.
Okay, we can do that, yes.
Okay. And I also wanted to agendize the results that we had at Wednesday's U2 concert. We did the walkthrough for the Creek Trail, and we met, and then we closed the meeting out, but we didn't have any formal discussion. Do I need to agendize that also for formal discussion on what we're going to do in next processes going forward?
Yes, we can put that on. We're going to be discussing that particular event.
Okay.
June 6th.
June 6th.
Is that
It will be on the
6th? Okay.
agenda.
Thank you. And then other things, I guess the Triton Museum had a Kentucky Derby gala, and it was extremely successful. I didn't attend it, but I think Councilmember O'Neill did. And then the mayor was a judge in a noodle contest at Whole Foods on Saturday. And it was quite exciting. There was a lot of things going on, and I want to thank the Cultural Commission for putting that on. And then also on Saturday, the mayor and I attended Girls Who Code graduation at the library. And that was wonderful to see these girls who learned to code, which to us was Greek, but they made these great websites, and they were from all our different schools that was a great event. I thought that was awesome. And I want to congratulate our Senior Advisory Commission for a successful health and wellness fair on
great.
Saturday. They did a job. There was a lot of people there and booths, and we really enjoyed that. That was very nice. And I would like to thank the Lions Club for doing the hearing tests that they did and the eye checks. That was awesome, too. So thank you. Those just few council reports.
Thank you. Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor. I had the pleasure of going to San Francisco on Sunday and presenting the outgoing Consul General for Ireland, Philip Grant, with a proclamation on behalf of the city. And it was a really very well attended event, and he really appreciated the city of Santa Clara acknowledging him. He's been a great friend to Santa Clara, as well as the whole Western District, which I think encompasses about 75 million people on the west coast of the United States. He was also very effective and instrumental in a lot of the work that was done after the Berkeley balcony collapse, where 6 students were killed, Irish students were killed, and 7 were injured. And he's also been very effective in having legislation passed to make sure that things like that never happen again. So he's going to be missed. Something I want to add to that visit to San Francisco was I found out that a lot of the people at the event attended the U2 concert. And when they found out that I was from Santa Clara, needless to say, I heard a lot of complaints. And I was really, they didn't blame the city of Santa Clara, but they were holding the stadium management responsible. Apparently, a lot of them booked limousines and came all the way down from San Francisco to attend this concert. And I even had Father Brendan complain to me as well, which is, for the priest to complain, it had to be bad. So anyway, but that's it. I'm using that opportunity to segue into something else that I'm going to request tonight as a result of the U2 concert. And I'm just going to ask that at the June 6th meeting, I know city manager, we've already talked about this, but if we could just have noise data from the concert, any kind of, I know we've received lots of letters from neighbors and just anybody that was impacted by the concert, if we could have that information available. And also discuss further, what the heck happened? That all these people were left standing in lines without food, for long periods of time. And after 3 years, it's just really hard to understand that a concert, a world-class concert just went so badly. And then on top of everything else, the curfew. So I'd like to agendize for the June 6th meeting basically a YouTube update and see what we can do to make sure this never happens again.
No, staff, may I ask a question for clarification? As far as the food running out or the lines, staff doesn't get involved with that. Would you be okay if we brought the stadium manager to answer that verbally, as opposed to putting that in the staff report and spending time on gathering information?
Yep, I agree.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. City manager, executive director report?
No, Mayor, nothing to report today. Thank you.
Reports of action taken in closed session? No.
There was no reportable action in closed session.
Thank you. So I have an adjournment this evening, and I'm going to ask that the council adjourn the meeting in the memory of the victims of the attack in Manchester, England. We offer our heartfelt condolences to the families and friends of the individuals who lost their lives during the horrific terrorist attack in Manchester, England last night on Monday, May 22nd, 2017. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, the injured, and their loved ones. We stand in solidarity with the people of England, so please let us have a moment of silence in their memory. Meeting adjourned.